Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. Get the string fruit and become a puppet manipulator. Chapter 1. There are two kinds of people in this world, one is the loser, the other is the winner. The weak can eat the strong. This is the most basic and important rule in this world. The bones of countless losers are buried under the feet of every successful person, and the bones will die. Sasori now has a deep understanding of this truth. If you want to survive in this troubled world, you must step on the corpses of others and become a living success. In a village in the Kingdom of Wind, Sasori with short red hair leaned against a dead tree alone, with bloodline on his body, and his chest was violently ups and downs, looking exhausted. Hey, there is one more here, we will leave after we get rid of him. Two Konoha ninjas walked out of the forest in the distance. One of them grinned at Sasori a bit, and then drew the long knife behind him and walked towards Sasori. The Second Ninja World War is coming to an end, and a large number of enemy ninjas are evacuating from the territory of the Country of Sand, but at the same time as the retreat, these ninjas also launched a brutal cleaning operation. Wherever they passed, there were destroyed villages everywhere. And the civilians killed. Parasite string. Sasori raised his head slightly and exhaled heavily. The hands hanging on the ground moved slightly, the index finger and ring finger were folded, and the middle finger, thumb and little finger were raised and hooked in the direction of the coming ninja. Ah, asshole, what are you doing? Suddenly the ninja holding a long sword screamed, his back was deeply pierced by a kunai. When he turned around, he realized that it was his companion who had made the hand. My body is out of control. Be careful, there are detonating symbols. But his companion is also incredible. With a cry of exclamation, he suddenly sounded, his own karma has a detonation talisman. But he still finished talking, his hands opened involuntarily, and he hugged the companion who was about to dodge. Boom, the detonation talisman between the two exploded, and the ninja holding a long knife was blown off his spine and died on the spot. The ninja who attacked him was also blown into a big hole in his abdomen, and all his internal organs flowed out. He died soon. Who are you? During the dying, the ninja whose belly was blown was full of solemn stares at the red-haired boy who was still leaning on the dead tree without any movement. Obviously, it was this boy who seemed to be seriously injured to do all this. From now on you will call me Sasori of the Red Sand. Sasori raised his head, with short wet red hair sticking to his forehead, smiled at the ninja, gently hooked his finger, and then a handle of kunai automatically lifted from the ninja's prop bag and pierced into the air. Cut his throat and cut off his last vitality. The ability of string fruit actually consumes so much energy, I can't stay here anymore. Sasori took a deep breath, stood up hard, muttered softly, and dived into the dense forest not far away. Sasori didn't expect that after he died once, he would be resurrected, but he was reborn, and he also gained a new identity, Sasori of the Red Sand in the Hokage ninja world. But Sasori is still in his teenage years. At this time, Sasori's parents have been killed by Konoha's White Fang. This is his second residence. He somehow occupied his body and became the new Sasori. And there was a purple pear-like fruit that appeared with him, covered with a strange fruit with an S-shaped texture, and the dark purple stem with a curvature, which immediately made Sasori think of the 4 words devil fruit. And this is Don Quixote. Doflamingo's devil fruit, string fruit. Sasori, who had come, was at ease, and Sasori, who hadn't figured out how to live his life, immediately greeted the enemy's ninja. The killing of several Konoha shinobi, no one in this small village can stop it. Sasori who has not yet practiced chakra has no resistance at all. Between life and death, Sasori chose life without hesitation. Eat string fruit. Gained the ability of string fruit. Relying on the 2 abilities of the first level Parasite String and Bullet String, Sasori has been alive until now, but at this moment Sasori may not be able to continue the fight, his energy has been exhausted. Someone has fought here. More than a dozen of our companions have died. Most of them died by attacking each other. It seems that their way of death should be in the hands of puppetry, and there should be experts who use puppetry nearby. Not long after Sasori left, another group of 9-member Konoha shinobi passed by the village. This time it was a Jonin who led the team. Everyone soon discovered the body of the same Konoha shinobi and judged it. The cause of everyone's death, a master of puppetry activity in such a place, immediately made him alert. Find him out. Konoha Jonin was silent for a moment and decided to find this master of puppetry, and provide a safe retreat channel for more companions who have not yet retreated. Sasori, who had not been trained by a professional ninja, was immediately discovered by everyone, and everyone followed him in the direction where Sasori had left. It's a civilian in the Kingdom of Wind. Since Sasori had not been trained as a ninja, he was quickly spotted by the Konoha elite ninja moving at high speed in the trees. A Chunin frowned and looked at the captain on the trip. He did not expect to track the only trace on the battlefield. It turned out to be only a civilian. But after another thought, if you were really a master of Grandmaster puppetry, you would definitely not leave such an obvious trace. Don't keep alive. Konoha's Jonin just glanced at Sasori before giving an order to kill her mouth. Chunin, who spoke first, swooped down from the tree and drew a huge shuriken from behind, ready to give Sasori a fatal blow, then quickly returned to the team to continue tracking the master of puppetry. Parasite String. When Konoha's ninja swooped down, he realized that he had been discovered, and immediately cursed inwardly. The middle finger was still in the air, and the Konoha Chunin was immediately shocked to find out. The action turned out to be as if being pulled, slammed into a giant wood not far away, and was immediately dizzy. Bullet String. Chie stretched out her index finger to face the Chunin who had already had a gap, and snorted, and immediately a thread shot through his neck like a bullet. You killed the ninjas in the village. Konoha Jonin appeared in front of Sasori for the first time. Konoha Jonin, who was about to leave, just stared at Sasori solemnly. With his eyesight, he could tell that there was no chakra in the boy in front of him. But it was unexpected that this boy without chakra could kill Chunin. And he just killed people in exactly the same way as the Konoha shinobi who were killed in the village. I don't know what you are talking about. Sasori put on a look of fear and shook his head. His current advantage is that he doesn't have any chakra inside. It looks like just an ordinary person. When the enemy is slack, he can surprise with the ability of string fruit. Sure enough, doubts appeared on the captain's face. He even doubted whether someone was hiding around him, using this young man as a bait. Captain, be careful, my body is out of control. Sasori's finger hooked, and there was an exclamation from behind Captain Konoha. A Konoha Chunin who was behind him stabs at the back of the captain's heart while holding on to kunai. Shadow imitation technique. It really is a puppet technique, a special blood succession limit. It's just that in the next moment countless black shadows rushed out from under the captain's feet, connecting everyone's shadows, and suddenly everyone couldn't move. This captain turned out to be a master of the Nara clan. The captain's gaze staring at Sasori became amazed. He didn't feel any chakra just now. Too dangerous to stay. Shadow strangulation. The captain's gaze became firm, and a black hand made up of shadows immediately wrapped around Sasori's neck. Is it going to die again? I'm really not reconciled. Sasori tried to struggle, but was locked on the ground by the shadow. Feeling the tighter and tighter shadow hand, Sasori felt a strong unwillingness. Suddenly, a purple figure suddenly appeared behind Captain Konoha, and Kumo stabbed at the leader of the captain fiercely. The response was swift when it was not enough for the captain. The purple figure Kuwu failed to successfully cut the squadron leader. Scorch style. Too much steaming. Although the attack failed to hit, the captain's body was evaporated in an instant. She fell to the ground in horror. Puppet kill. The three machines operate at the same time. Not yet everyone recovered from the shock of the captain being killed. Three puppets appeared behind the crowd. Enter Konoha's Chunin. Like no one's land. Enemy attack. It's Scorch style Yakira from the Kingdom of Wind and Chio, the puppet queen. With two special attack methods, Konoha's ninja immediately recognizes who the person is. However, his exclamation has become extinct. Several Konoha shinobi were wiped out by Chio and Hakura in a moment, and he was the only one left. He was only exclaimed and killed by Chio's puppets. Sasori hadn't recovered yet. Yakura, who was wearing a purple battle suit, stood in front of him, looked at him carefully, and said to Chio, who was smiling bitterly behind him. Millennium mother-in-law, is this what you said, Sasori? I won't admit this kind of fiancé. Sasori was still surprised that the purple-clothed girl in front of him was so strong. She was able to kill Konoha's Jonin. But the next moment was stunned by her words. Fiancé. Does Sasori have a fiancé? Scorch style Yakura. After the rest of his life, Sasori recognized Chio, this is Sasori's grandmother, and she is the only relative of Sasori in the world. But Scorch-style Yakora gave Yan only a little impression. After a long time, he remembered that Scorch-style Yakora, the Country of Wind, is a very famous character. He was once a hero of the Country of Wind, but he was finally caught by Fourth Cage. Rosha was sold to Hagsha as a victim, and was brutally killed in Kurigakure. He was released by Yakushi Kabuto in Pure World Reincarnation during the Fourth Ninja War. But why does Yi Kang say that she is Sasori's fiancé? Although the two people belong to the same era, they seem to have no intersection. These are actually not important for writing. The most important thing is that Shibakura's eyes full of contempt at the moment made Sasori's inner anger surge. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry, I want to dissolve the marriage contract that you and my father prepared for me before, just as the reward for saving his life this time. I have nothing to do with ninjas who are not talented or enterprising. Interest, we are both cleared, I will leave first. If Yi Kang's contemptuous eyes made Sasori unwilling, she didn't hesitate to say what she wanted to say in front of Chiyo, and then she was ready to leave. She was even more needed on the battlefield. No one is born strong, so are you. The more you look down on me, the more I will ride on you. You wait, one day I will make you cry and kneel in front of me, and then serve me. I will make you regret it. Sasori, who had already exhausted his energy, struggled from the ground, staring at Yi Kang's back, with unprecedented determination in his heart. Why does she look down on me? Because she is stronger than me. Because she is the heir to the bloodline limit. This world does not need the weak. Weak people, even their fiancé, will abandon you. Yi Kang turned his face with a sneer, and was about to laugh at Sasori just now, but suddenly saw his black pupils. At this moment, Sasori's eyes were bright and she had never seen it. That kind of flame, even she felt a trace of palpitations. An intuition that Sasori would do what he said appeared in Yi Kang's heart. The existence of a character who may be able to threaten her in the future, even if this person is still rubbish now. I agree that you want to dissolve the marriage contract. Maybe it's just wishful thinking between our elders. Sasori lost his parents not long ago, so he may be emotionally extreme. I hope you don't mind. But when Yi Kang was about to take action, Chiyo, who had always smiled bitterly, stood between Yi Kang and Sasori, nodded apologetically at Yi Kang, and agreed to Yi Kang's refusal to marry him. Hakura took a deep look at Sasori again, but Sasori fell to the ground due to lack of oxygen and physical exhaustion, and the expression on Chiyo's face stayed for a while. After weighing the pros and cons, Hakura turned silently, disappeared in the forest. Child, you have suffered during these hours. Chiyo put his hand on Sasori's body and gave her a simple treatment. Her wrinkled face was full of guilt. Grandma, I want to learn puppetry. Sasori shook his head. He is very clear that his suffering has just begun and has nothing to do with other people. In this world, if you can't be stronger than others, you will always be controlled by others. And now Sasori has string fruit. If combined with Chiyo's puppetry, it is a perfect match. One day Sasori will use puppetry to control Yi Kang and let her kneel in front of her to pay the price for everything she has done today. I will teach you what I have learned throughout my life. You are my only grandson. Chiyo didn't know Sasori's psychological thoughts at the moment, but he smiled with relief. As long as his only grandson can grow up happily, this is more important than anything. Our puppet clan is more difficult to practice chakra than other ninjas. If you want puppets to make as difficult as a human, and extremely detailed attacks and changes, you can't do without superb operation skills, so for chakra's cultivation, the puppet family pays attention to 3 points. I will teach you the first point, resilience. Can't lift the puppet's chakra thread, it has no effect at all, so when you can use the chakra thread to lift the largest piece of rock and fill it into the canyon when it comes time, I will teach you the second content, manipulation. Sunagakure, the country of wind, in a desert, in front of Sasori there are hundreds of rocks of varying sizes from small to large, and in the distance is a canyon. After Chiyo taught Sasori chakra's training method and used chakra silk thread, he was assigned the task of using chakra silk thread to lift these stones into the canyon. At first Sasori thought it was a very simple task, but when he really started to do it, he realized that it was not that simple. When it was only the 10th stone, his chakra thread could not bear the stone. The weight of the block fell apart. Sasori tried string fruit's ability again when there was no one, only to find that he could only use lines to move the nearly 100 kilograms of stones that lined up near 1/3 of the row of rocks. And the task given by the mother-in-law of the 1,000 generations, the last piece of rock is nearly 1,000 catties. After understanding the importance of toughness to the chakra thread, Sasori continued to refine the chakra in his body and began to lift the stone. At the same time began to exercise the ability of string fruit. I am going to pass on all of my life to Sasori. Sister, are you serious? In the wind and sand in the distance, Ebizo and Chiyo silently looked at Sasori, who was meticulously using chakra threads to pull the stones. Ebizo squinted at Chiyo with a smile on his face. It has been a long time since he saw Chiyo appearing like this. Yes, I owe them too much. And have you discovered that Sasori has a strong talent for puppetry? Without any professional training, he can kill several ninjas with puppet silk thread. This is simply natural, puppet master. Chiyo nodded affirmatively. Yu Shi is his only grandson. Apart from Ebizo, he is the only relative. Yu Gong is in Sasori. Chiyo sees the perseverance of an excellent ninja, and more importantly, it is Sasori who has an excellent talent as a puppet master. In the current country of the wind, the puppet family has gradually gone downhill. Due to the difficulty of the puppets and the extremely difficult entry, few people are willing to join. The remaining members are mediocre and it is difficult to support the entire puppet family. But Chiyo now sees hope in Sasori. The desire in his eyes is too strong, and he will be a very troublesome character in the future. Ebizo never concealed anything in front of Chiyo, he saw him very directly, and his intuition told Chiyo that Ebizo's talent for cultivation is very poor, but fortunately he has a good mind and keen intuition. Therefore, in the Kingdom of Wind, he is also a ninja who occupies a very important position. The current intuition tells Ebizo that Sasori will bring great variables to the Kingdom of Wind in the future. And it is a bad variable. I believe he can inherit my mantle. No. The puppet clan, he may be hope. Chiyo smiled. She didn't see the brilliance in Sasori's eyes, but he was willing to believe in Sasori, and he believed that he could lead Sasori on the right path. Sasori, who was still cultivating, didn't know that there were several pairs of eyes looking at him in the distance. After chakra was exhausted, he began to exercise the ability of string fruit, but Sasori could not use the ability of string fruit many times. He fell to the ground exhausted. No, physical training has to keep up. Sasori, who was facing up to the sky, took a deep breath, gritted his teeth and stood up. The practice of puppetry cannot be completed overnight. It is almost impossible to rely on puppetry for a successful assassin within a few years. And Sasori's real killer now is the unique string fruit ability in this world. You don't need any chakra to control the enemy. Sasori remembers clearly that Doflamingo has dozens of abilities to use string fruit. And also awakened the string fruit ability, but Sasori can only use the most basic parasite string and bullet string now. Cannot be used multiple times. Holding the treasure chest but can't open it. This is definitely not acceptable to Sasori. If you want to increase your body, there are no shortcuts. The only way you can't is to keep exercising. It's about 1,000 meters away from the canyon and there are so many rocks. It's just right. If you want to enhance the ability of string fruit, you must exercise your physical strength. And the growth of the body is the same as the practice of chakra. There is no way to be lazy, you can only do it step by step. Immediately Yan turned his gaze to the surrounding rocks and the canyon in the distance, using the most primitive method to exercise his body. After resting for a while, Sasori stood up again, then condensed the chakra silk thread, tied a relatively flat rock to his back, and used another puppet silk thread to drag a rock with broken silk thread and ran all the way to the canyon. Running to the edge of the gorge, Sasori didn't throw the rock down, but ran back holding the rock. Repeatedly, while training the toughness of the chakra silk thread, he also exercised his physical fitness. After all, Sasori's body is still too weak. After running too back and forth, he can no longer run. Under the load, he dragged a heavier stone. This is for the young Sasori. It's still struggling. He staggered, and immediately Sasori fell to the ground. After struggling for a long time, Sasori couldn't stand up either. You can't lose. You can walk if you can't run. If you can't stand up, you can crawl. Sand Shinobi's genius, Scorch style Hakura. Wait, I will let you kneel and lick it. But after a while, Sasori stretched out his hands and gritted his teeth, and began to crawl on the ground. After crawling back and forth, he fell into a drowsy coma. Humph, waste, even if you try harder, it's still waste. It's not like practicing physical arts. A purple figure appeared in the sand, and she glanced at Sasori with extremely complicated eyes, but in the end she snorted and disappeared into the sand. The body is the most precious thing for a ninja. Damage cannot be repaired. This is fundamentally different from puppets. I can understand your determination to become stronger, but you must practice moderately. In my life, except for puppets. In addition, medical ninjutsu also has some experience. One of the essence of puppetry is the use of poison. This is my note. You can take a look and ask me if you don't understand. Sasori trained day and night on the sandy land for half a month. He can't even remember how many times he has fainted, but his persistence did not increase his training progress. On the contrary, it slowed down a lot. When he woke up again, Chiyo appeared in front of him with a smile. His physical fatigue has been relieved a lot, and all the wounds on his body have been treated. He patted Sasori's hand. Chiyo-san, the thread-bound book, which seemed a little shabby, was handed over to Sasori. Puppet Jutsu Forging Concept. Special Application of Medical Ninjutsu, Pharmacological Illustrated Book. Thank you, Grandma. When Sasori saw these 3 thread-bound books, the whole person became solemn, and he turned 2 pages casually. They were all handwritten manuscripts, and there were a lot of annotations and additional pages. There is no doubt that these 3 books should have been the hard work of 1,000 generations. Sasori bowed to Chiyo from the bottom of his heart. Unexpectedly, Chiyo gave him such a valuable thing. I also wonder why Chiyo didn't take it out at the beginning, but waited so long before taking it out. What Sasori didn't know was that during the first training that Chiyo gave him, she didn't intend to give him these things. To be precise, the first training was Chiyo's last and first test of Sasori. She wanted to see if Sasori is qualified to become a puppet master. And Sasori's performance in the past half-month made Chiyo agree with Sasori. Sasori's talent in puppetry is undoubtedly displayed. It is Sasori's perseverance that really shocked Chiyo. This is the first time she has seen someone able to carry out such a hard and boring training for half a month without stopping. I'm afraid that Chiyo won't come out again. Sasori may continue until his body collapses. Open, special use of medical ninjutsu, and try the first, inner vision, to see your own physical condition. While Sasori was excited to obtain such a precious book, Chiyo had already opened the special application of medical ninjutsu, and smiled at the first level auxiliary ninjutsu on the first page. Sasori focused his attention on inner vision art, and immediately understood the role of this ninjutsu, able to see the inside of his body from a special perspective, and discover the abnormalities in his body in time. Tisk, I said why it hurts so much. It can't continue this way, otherwise it will leave behind incurable hidden diseases. Primary medical ninjutsu is not a particularly difficult technique. After trying twice, Sasori successfully performed it. But when he saw his body through endoscopy, he was immediately shocked. Most of his body is white, but there are many black cracks in the joints, as well as the thighs and arms. Some red irregular lumps. Immediately Sasori understood that these are the problems in his body now. Grandma, I want some herbs to prepare potions. There is no need for Chiyo to remind Sasori what to do. Sasori has already cancelled the internal vision. The page behind the internal vision has detailed methods to treat various symptoms, many of which are drug configuration, and Sasori is ready to configure it by itself. Potion. In addition to the operation of puppet art, mechanism and poison are also one of the 2 essences. Learn to save people if you want to kill. There is no free lunch in this world. Although I am your grandmother, apart from teaching you, I won't give you any more help. So if you want to get supplies, you have to rely on your own hands. Quote. This time Chiyo rejected Sasori's request, but told him seriously a truth recognized by all people in the world. What should I do? Sasori nodded. Chiyo told him this. Obviously he was going to do something. 10 miles to the northeast, where is the country of rain, where is the border between the country of Sichuan and our country, where is a dense forest with most of the herbs you want, and a small amount of materials for primary puppet refining, and there is a place 10 miles to the southwest. A large garbage dump has a lot of materials for refining puppets. After you complete the training I have set for you, I will introduce you to a mercenary, and then you will be able to obtain more resources. Chio smiled, and immediately pointed in two completely opposite directions. These two directions will be where Sasori will stay for a long time. I understand. Sasori nodded, and walked to the dense forest on the border without wasting any time, where not only the herbs he wanted, but also the ninjas of the Kingdom of Rain and the Kingdom of Kawa. Sasori lay in a low bush, without the slightest sign of life, looking like a dead tree. This is the disguise he learned in special uses of medical ninjutsu, which can shield his life signals in a short time. It is easy to understand that it is the tortoise breath Dafa. The entire dense forest was deadly silent, with only occasional bird calls above the head, but no trace of the birds could be seen. After a while, a few swishes sounded from the top of the tree, and the bird's song disappeared. These birdsong are not real birds, but ninjas of the Land of Rain. During the border inspection, Sasori is located very close to the territory of the Land of Rain. After a while, Sasori stood up from the bush where he was hiding, picked off a scarlet plant growing on an animal bone not far away, and sealed it in a scroll. Sasori felt that the world was in this world. The most important thing is the scroll. Basically all dead objects can be enclosed in the scroll, and it only takes a little chakra to take it out. The borders of the country are really dangerous. Liu Yexuan has gotten it, and it's still the last unintentional flower. In addition to the 6-leaf fishy on Sasori's scroll, dozens of herbs are densely sealed, and he has collected all of them, whether they can be used or not. Before the last kind of unintentional flower, he was able to try to refine Shi Huangsan that healed bone cracks. Looking at the direction of the Rain Country where the Rain Country ninja had just left, Sasori walked in the opposite direction, which is the area where the River Country is located. In addition to Konoha, the main growing area of Wushinwa is the territory of the Kawa no Kuni. Sasori has spent a month in the dense forests of this regardless zone. He has a good understanding of the rules of survival here. At first, he was also discovered by the enemy ninja, but he was seriously injured by the parasite sting and bullet sting. Fortunately, the internal conflicts in the Land of Rain have recently intensified. The border patrols are only in groups of 3, and there is also a combination of Chunin and 2 Genins. Elite Jonin all confronted each other in Rain Shinobi Village. Withdraw to the border. The border of Kawa no Kuni is even more slack. The village of Uninja in Kawa no Kuni is a village whose fighting power has diminished with the disappearance of the war. As the Second World War began to calm down, Kawa no Kuni began to fight against the war, and more people I gave up fighting, so even the border patrols only once a day. Unfortunately, it is the safest border. Sasori quickly found Wushinwa, and started to grind Shuangsan on the border of Kawa no Kuni according to the refining method on the formula, use chakra to dissolve the medicine, and apply heat to the injured joints. Sasori is very obviously, I can feel Shi Huangsan penetrated into the injured bone. Can't let him run. Chase. Just as Sasori felt the effects of Shuangsan, a low voice suddenly came from the direction of Kawa no Kuni. Sasori immediately used the disguise technique to cancel the life fluctuation. A young man with wounds and curse marks on his body, naked upper body, with Kawa no Kuni's forehead protector on his forehead, and a pendant around his neck, a young man with a sickle on his back came out of the forest panting. Passing in front of Sasori without stopping, fled in the direction of Rain Shinobi Village. Sasori who hides not far away without noticing it. Sasori's brow furrowed, and this boy gave him an extremely familiar feeling. But for a while, he couldn't remember who this person was. Immediately behind this young man were also 5 ninjas from the kingdom of Kawasaki, but their costumes were strange, not regular ninja clothes, but blood-colored robes, which looked like some kind of strange sacrificial robes. In the position of the heart, there is a circular mark painted with the word God in the middle, which is more like the costume of a certain religious organization. Religious organization. Cult. Cthulhu. Hidan. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in Sasori's mind, and he suddenly remembered who the boy was before. A faithful follower of the Cthulhu organization of the Kingdom of River. Hidan with immortality. One of the later members of Shao, code-named 3. Isn't Hidan a faithful believer of Cthulhu? The 5 people who chased him were obviously members of the Cthulhu. Why would he be chased and killed by the Cthulhu? Sasori hesitated for a moment and decided not to go to this muddy water. The 5 Cthulhu ninjas knew that they were strong at first glance. Even the headed person gave Sasori a very dangerous feeling. He and Hidan are not familiar with each other. It's not worth the risk. I finally got rid of it. No, I have to go back. But when Sasori was about to leave, Hidan appeared in the grass beside him. Hidan fell to the ground and exhaled heavily. His eyes were full of determination and looked towards the direction of the country of Sichuan. Have you forgotten who taught you this kind of substitute occultist? Who do you think you can fool? It's just that Hidan just breathed a sigh of relief. 5 ninjas of the Cthulhu cult had already surrounded him. The leading ninja stared at Hidan with a sneer. Suddenly he turned his gaze to the bush next to Hidan and threw a handful of kunai, and yelled, "Who are you?" Sasori rolled away from kunai with a wry smile, and stood up from the bushes. "I just passed by to gather herbs, I didn't see anything." Sasori suddenly appeared in such a close place and everyone was stunned. If it hadn't been for the leader to discover this hidden teenager first, they haven't found it yet. Although the red-haired boy looked about the same age as Hidan, everyone didn't mean to despise it in the slightest. Hidden so close, they hadn't noticed that if he had launched a sneak attack just now, he might not have been able to dodge it. "Big brother, I have brought them here. I'm going to rely on you next. This person is the Cthulhu's Hall Master Munda. You said that I was the leader." Hidan was actually very scared. He just used the short-distance esoteric clone-clone technique, which can create a clone unconsciously, and then exchange the body with the substitute not far away to achieve the effect of confusing the enemy. After the substitute came over, he didn't notice that there was anyone around him. However, Hidan's reaction was quick, and he hid behind Sasori for the first time. "I said why you suddenly betrayed the Cthulhu. It turned out that someone was backing it up. Okay, don't let any of them go." When Cthulhu's Hall Master Mengda heard this, his eyes were fierce, and his eyes fixed on Sasori, and he was not talking nonsense. He waved at the people behind him, and all 5 of them shot together. Dozens of kunai and shurikens flew over from all directions. Sasori's face is extremely ugly, and he has the heart to kill Hidan. Hidan plays well with this hand. The focus of the attack of Mengda and others was immediately focused on him. Parasite String. In the face of numerous attacks, Sasori did not hesitate to use his own assassin for the first time, and the parasite string with both hands popped up at the same time. For the first time, I used both hands to operate at the same time. However, Sasori's left-hand operation is very simple. It just pulls Hidan, who has been looking around to find a breakthrough, and while Hidan is completely confused about the situation, he spins around him, blocking a lot of shurikens and suffering none. The right hand is the focus of Sasori's operation. The ninja on Sasori's left was obviously affected. His right foot was still bandaged, and the blood donation was already stained with red bandages. Sasori immediately controlled a ninja on his right and attacked him. The wound of the leg. And with one hit, he almost cut off his right leg with a single blow. Suddenly 2 panicked ninjas created space for Sasori to escape, and Sasori dragged Hidan back for the first time. Hidan was dragged not to save him, but because Sasori needed a shield. Hidan's body is already filled with shurikens and kunai, so I don't mind inserting a few more. There is a price to pay if you want to pit Sasori. Monochrome line. As Sasori flew back and retreated, his right hand suddenly waved at the ninja under his control. Suddenly, the ninja who hadn't recovered what was going on, his pupils were struggling, and his hands covered his neck and fell down. The blood donation kept flowing from his fingers. This is the new string fruit ability that Sasori has learned over the past month. The simplified version of 5-color strings changes from swaying 5 silk threads to kill people to only swaying 1 thread, achieving the effect of hurting people. Of course, with the simplified version of Ashiki, both power and distance are correspondingly weakened. The only advantage is that it consumes less physical energy. Sasori is still able to use 5-color strings, but in his heyday, it can only be used about 10 times, but with a single color line, Sasori can use it dozens of times. This is the most cost-effective for Sasori now. Although the power of the monochromatic line is weakened, if you attack on a fragile part like the neck, you can still complete a one-shot kill. The feat of 1 kill and 1 serious injury was almost completed in an instant. Everyone was stunned for a while. It wasn't until Sasori dragged Hidan out of the encirclement that Mengda recovered and used the secret technique developed by Cthulhu with a black face. Blood escape. Flying blood technique. Mengda quickly formed seals with both hands, and suddenly disappeared from Sasori's sight, and suddenly appeared beside Hidan in the next moment. This is one of the secret arts of Cthulhu. It is possible to achieve an effect similar to ninjutsu through specially processed blood, but the distance is not long. Hidan, as one of Munda's experimental subjects, had all blood in his body treated specially. Before, Hidan was very careful to stop the blood from all the wounds, so that he could not find a chance to launch this trick, but now his body is full of wounds, blood is splashing everywhere. Just give him the opportunity to start the operation. Smelly boy, go to me to die. Fire style. Big flame bomb. After getting close, Daemon roared without hesitation and activated the strongest fire style of his master. Moment. Sasori and Hidan are both enveloped in flames. Hidan's eyes were full of trepidation, but Sasori's eyes were full of coldness. With a pull on the parasite string in his left hand, Hidan pulled him down. Sasori shrank behind Hidan. Sasori has been dragging Hidan without being too burdensome, but Hidan is not trying to save him. Parasite string. While completing the human defense shield, Sasori's right finger hooked. Parasite string is launched again. But this time the parasite string is not connected to Munda and Hidan. Boom. An explosion suddenly came from behind everyone. The violent explosion made Munda stunned for a moment. Based on his experience, he immediately judged that this was the sound of the detonation symbol being detonated. Does he have other accomplices? Hidan, who was about to be engulfed by flames, showed a shocking miracle in his eyes, but his expression was not because of the flames in front of him, nor was it because of Munda, but looked at the location of the explosion behind Munda with horror. Hidan's expression caused strong curiosity in Munda's heart, and he looked back subconsciously, and he was stunned. I saw the Cthulhu who had his throat cut by Sasori raised his head, like a puppet, standing twisted in place. His hands have disappeared, and the other 2 ninjas chasing from him 2 huge blood holes appeared in the abdomen, one on the left and the other fell beside him. Sasori used the method of positioning them to make their companions hit one person badly, and then killed another person while fleeing again, which made them feel a little bit of fear. They were afraid that the companion who had just been badly hit his right leg would suddenly be violent. He launched an attack on himself, and chased down from the companion who was killed without knowing it. It is impossible for a dead person to attack them. When they focused their attention on the companion whose foot was injured, something frightening happened to them. The companion who had lost his vitality suddenly released his hands covering his neck. 2 kunai with the detonating talisman pasted were held tightly in his hands, and they were inserted into their abdomens at a faster rate than before. Sasori's parasite string is only connected to the ninja whose throat was cut from beginning to end. Boom. In the horrified expressions of the 2, the detonating talisman exploded. Boom. As the detonating talisman exploded, Munda's flame exploded too. Hidan and Sasori were all swallowed in it. This is Mengda's must-hit. It was also the main reason why he dared to look behind him distractedly during the battle. Infinite anger rose in Mengda's heart. The development of Cthulhu in the kingdom of Sichuan is not good. He can climb all the way to the position of the Hall Master, relying on the confidants present. Unexpectedly this time, in order to chase Hidan, who ran away, they were all folded here once. His next life in Cthulhu will probably be very difficult. At this moment, Munda did not notice that a black shadow was approaching quickly in his flames. Countless experiences have taught me that I should not be distracted in battle, especially when the battle is not over, although I have no actual combat experience. Just when Mengda was about to be swallowed up by anger, and his mind was full of the miserable life of the Cthulhu in the future, he suddenly felt a breeze passing by his neck. The next moment Sasori's cold voice appeared behind him. Sasori's red hair has been scorched a lot, and there are also large areas of burnt and burned parts on his body, but compared to Hidan in front of Sasori, it is so much better. Sasori was covered with scars, but his face was still stern, holding Hidan in his left hand, who was still scorched, and the 5 fingers of his right hand spread out, holding it virtually on the back of Munda's neck. 5 color strings. Before Mengda recovered his senses, Sasori withdrew his hand abruptly. Puff. A human head fell to the ground. With Sasori's full force, he cut off Munda's head with a single blow, and boiling blood splashed out of Munda's neck. Both Sasori and Hidan, who were still blocked by him, were all over. Sasori threw Hidan in front of him to the ground like trash, then made a pistol pose and pointed at the ninja who hadn't recovered yet and was still shocked and hurt his right leg. Bullet string. A bullet-like thread pierced the ninja's heart, and Sasori quickly ran to the two men whose abdomen was blown through. The monochrome thread was added to the necks of the two men, just in case. Looking around the surrounding battlefield, Sasori used the chakra puppet line to drag Hidan and quickly left the scene. There is no guarantee that Cthulhu will have other chasing soldiers. Don't pretend to be dead. Your life signs become active after the curse marks on the surface of your body absorb his blood. If you continue to pretend, then I don't mind cutting off your head. All the way back to the temporary residence in the territory of the Kingdom of Wind, Sasori threw the charred Hidan on the ground and snorted coldly. Oh, thank you for saving me. You look like my big brother. I confessed to the wrong person just now. Then I will say goodbye. Goodbye. Hearing Sasori's threat, Hidan jumped up from the ground immediately, finished speaking quickly, waved his hand at Sasori, turned and left. Have I said to let you go? But the next moment Hidan turned around with a weeping face and reluctantly, Sasori's puppet thread could still be connected to him. Brother, you are my own brother. What do you want to do? I still have something urgent. Hidan's offline character started wailing immediately. He really couldn't figure out what Sasori wanted to do. If Sasori really wants to kill him, there is no need to bring him here. If Sasori wants to save him, he should be let go now. Why are you being chased by the Cthulhu? Are you not a faithful believer of the Cthulhu? Sasori didn't want to talk nonsense with Hidan, and directly expressed his doubts. Sasori was very puzzled about the reason why Hidan was chased by the Cthulhu. Intuition told him that this would be an opportunity for him. You know me. Hidan was stunned for a moment, and immediately came back to his senses. How could he know that he is a faithful believer of Cthulhu? I was before, but I am not anymore. You have not answered my question yet. When Sasori's face was cold, Hidan stopped talking nonsense immediately. Anyway, what Sasori wants to know is not a big secret. The Cthulhu chased me because I defected. Hidan clenched his fists and explained his willingness to be chased by the Cthulhu in one sentence. Before Sasori could continue to ask, he had already spoken first. I worked so hard to become a ninja. It's for my family, my village's revenge. But the village's top leaders actually advocated a truce. That's fine for a truce. Even the number of ninjas has to be reduced. They are crazy. Do they think they are crazy? There won't be war anymore. So I joined the Cthulhu. The Cthulhu is the main battle. And even attacking ninjas in other countries. I want to fight. I want revenge. Although Hidan's nonsense was not the answer to the question, Sasori still listened quietly. He then remembered that the country where Hidan is located is a country headed by Yuin village. Although it is rich in natural resources, it is extremely anti-war. Mainly the reason is that it is sandwiched between the Kingdom of Wind and Konoha. It is the most important buffer zone between the two big countries. Every time the two big countries go to war, the two big countries will leave room for the Kingdom of Sichuan. In addition, Konoha took the lead in becoming a ninja and can accept employment. Other countries can hire Konoha ninjas to do things for you as long as they pay. The small countries around Konoha have chosen to hire ninjas. As a result, the number of ninjas in the country began to decline. So gradually the country of Kawa no Kuni has become a huge territory, but in fact it is infiltrated by the Konoha economy, infiltrated by ninjas, and reached the ninja controlled behind the scenes. Of course, Konoha's plan has only just begun at this time, and it will be after the 3 world wars until the Kingdom of the River is truly controlled. But I didn't expect this group of lunatics to conduct a taboo experiment. My brother and I were forcibly turned into experimental subjects by the fool Munda. Today is the last step of the experiment. I don't know what happened. But they said that my experiment was successful. When they were cheering, I escaped. I must save my brother now. Just as Sasori fell into the analysis of the situation in Kawa no Kuni, Hidan finally entered the subject. The reason why he escaped from Cthulhu was because he was regarded as the subject of the taboo experiment by Mengda and others. After the experiment was successful, Hidan pretended to be very submissive and attacked the ninja guarding him. It was the ninja whose footsteps were heard. The original injury of his right foot was the wound Hidan caused him to escape. And Hidan wanted to leave, not to escape, but to return to the cult. The brother he grew up with was still in the cult, and was treated like him as an experimental subject. They said your experiment was successful. Sasori frowned tightly, ignoring all the nonsense of Hidan, and repeated the most crucial sentence. It seems to be true. I was hit by the flame just now. I thought I was dead, but I didn't expect that after being drenched in Munda's blood, I was alive. Munda's blood and mine are not like other people. Same, he forced me to drink a lot of special secret medicine every day, the taste is really nothing to say. And he himself can drink the secret medicine like shit, so happy. What a pervert. And he can even use my blood using blood to escape. It really scared me. Then again, I am afraid that the experiment they are talking about is this experiment, which can absorb blood to quickly repair your body. And use blood to use secret escape. This kind of ninjutsu is really too much. It's terrible. Hidan started to talk fast again. He couldn't stop his mouth like a machine gun. He told Sasori of his guess. In Hidan, he could absorb the blood of other people and heal his wounded body quickly. This kind of ability sounds like. It is very evil. I am afraid that most people cannot accept it. I'm afraid there is still something terrible. 5 color strings. Sasori's face became a little weird, and he directly put his hand on Hidan's neck, and the next moment 5 color strings was activated. Hidan's head puffed and fell to the ground. Why are you killing me? Although I cheated you, but didn't you already use me as a shield to kill them? We're cleaned up. You fool. I was chopped off my head. This method of death is still worth it. It's not handsome at all. I thought I could fight 3,000 enemy troops and then stand to death. Oh, brother, I can't save you. I have to go one step ahead. You have to live well. Father, mother. Hidan's head fell to the ground and blood donated everywhere. The whole scene was weirdly silent for a moment. In the next moment, Hidan burst into tears and began to babble. After cursing Sasori, he began to mourn his brothers and sisters, with family. Have you ever seen anyone who has been slapped off for so long and has such a clear consciousness? Sasori couldn't listen anymore, strode to Hidan's face, kicked his head against his fallen body, and looked at him coldly. That's right. Why am I still alive? Is this my body? It looks terrible from this angle. Wow, people without a head move. Good. Disgusting. Heart. After a long pause, Hidan came back to his senses and looked at his body with horror. As he moved his body subconsciously, his body actually moved. Like a drowning person, he struggled with his hands and feet together. I don't know whether I should congratulate you or feel sad for you. You have gained immortality. This is the true experiment conducted by the Cthulhu. Sasori rolled his eyes again, stepped on Hidan's body with one foot, and lowered his head to make a judgment at Hidan. Obviously, it was at this time that Hidan was completed the experiment and curse of the immortality by the Cthulhu. Immortal, Hidan was stunned, staring hollowly at his body, and didn't know what to think about. It's also a coincidence that Hidan's undead experiment did not succeed when he fled. He was just one of many experiment subjects, which was a semi-finished product, but after the curse imprint on his body was hidden into the skin, Mengda was just caught, Sasori was killed, Munda's blood was absorbed by those curse marks, and Hidan's immortal body was truly completed. If you want to become an immortal body, the real key is actually in Munda. Mengda trains Hidan and others to actually make themselves immortal. Sasori tried to connect Hidan's head back to his body, and then used String Fruit's ability to suture his broken wound with thread. As expected, Hidan recovered as if nothing had happened, feeling the stitch marks on his neck. Hidan still looks incredible. The last question, did they teach you other gestures or graphics for this experiment before, or special ninjutsu that can all die together? Sasori interrupted Hidan, who touched his neck again and again, and asked the question he most wanted to know. Hidan is not the strongest because he has an immortal body. Only Hidan who can curse rituals is the best. Strong. How would you know? Hidan was stunned as soon as he heard Sasori's question. Sasori knew everything how he felt. Before this experiment, Mengda had been developing taboo ninjutsu with Hidan, and finally worked with Hidan together to develop taboo ninjutsu that can obtain the enemy's blood information and then perform the same damage. Hidan always thought that this was the last way of forbearance, that he could not completely defeat the enemy and die at the same time. But now Hidan will look again. This is a special ninjutsu tailored specifically for the immortal body. Just after Hidan had understood the meaning of this special ninjutsu, he suddenly became excited. This is tantamount to invincibility. Learn those tricks well, it will be your most powerful killer in the future. Sasori nodded at Hidan, and gave a very positive evaluation of the combination of Hidan's immortality and cursing ritual, and then directed at Hidan. Asked, "Are you going to save your brother?" "Go, must go. I brought him to join the Cthulhu. I will be responsible to him to the end." Hidan just came back to his senses. In Cthulhu, there are still people waiting for him to save. Immediately prepare to return to the base of Cthulhu. He was not afraid when there was no immortal body, but now that he has an immortal body, he is even more unafraid. "Do you know that you are going to die by yourself? Without me stitching up the wound for you, you can only be dead flesh in one place." Sasori used parasite string again to pull Hidan back, and shook his head at Hidan. Hidan acquiesced that it is indeed what Sasori said. The biggest weakness of his immortal body is that once his limbs are cut off, it cannot automatically heal. "Are you willing to help me?" But when Hidan saw the smile on Sasori's face, he suddenly woke up. "With me in the future. You can see my ability. Both you and I need a partner." "Good." Sasori smiled, and then said his proposal. Hidan agreed without hesitation. The Cthulhu's base in the kingdom of Sichuan is very remote, close to the border of the kingdom of Wind, which is why Hidan escaped from the territory of the kingdom of Sichuan into the Three Regrets between the three kingdoms. Ha ha ha. Hall Master Iwata. The weather is nice today. A shrine was built behind a waterfall. 8 or 9 ninjas wearing cult costumes were talking about something. Hidan entered the waterfall wearing a neat uniform, appeared in front of everyone, and immediately fought against the head of the hall. Call. "Hidan, I heard someone defected on your side, what's the matter? Does Munda eat shit?" Everyone was on guard at first, but when they saw that they were acquaintances, they naturally let go of their hanging hearts. Hidan is the celebrity next to Mangda. This is something everyone knows. The hall master who became Iwata glared at Hidan, and then asked. The 3 halls of the Cthulhu Church were located in different locations, so no detailed information about Hidan's rebellion was sent. "I came here this time to report to you because of this incident. How about taking a step back? Please here." Hidan sternly glanced at the people behind Iwata, then hesitated, and made a please gesture outside the waterfall, even if he got out of the waterfall first. "What happened? It's mysterious. Is there something wrong with the experiment?" Iwata's brows frowned slightly, and he gave an order to the people behind him, and followed Hidan out of the waterfall. Hidan took Iwata around a corner and entered the woodland not far away, then stopped, and looked at the puzzled Iwata with a smile on his face. "Because your strength is too strong and there are so many people under you, it's too dangerous not to trick you out." Hidan grinned, and then pulled out Firin from behind and slashed towards Iwata. "Ha, just rely on you. My body." Hidan's weird behavior has long been preventing Iwata, so as soon as Hidan shot, he reacted, but in the next moment, he was stunned. Because his body unexpectedly lost its response. Monochrome line. Sasori's figure appeared behind Iwata, and a thread was already tied to Iwata's neck. Secret technique. Boneless snake. Earth style. Take root. Seeing that the two are about to complete the lore, Iwata's body suddenly twisted strangely, like a loach, softened down. Both Sasori and Hidan's attacks failed to be compacted, leaving 2 wounds on his body respectively. Sasori's pupils shrank. My own parasite string can't pull Iwata up. His body seemed to have lost all his bones. And it became extremely heavy. His line can't control Iwata's body at all. "Boy, want to kill me? You are still a little tender. Give me death." Earth style. Ground thorn. Iwata is the strongest of the 3 Cthulhu Hall Masters, and he has extremely rich combat experience. He immediately judged that the attack on him was a puppet technique, and he responded and counterattacked quickly enough. Numerous soil thorns rose from the ground and rushed towards Sasori and Hidan in tandem. "Palace Master Iwata, I was wrong. I will kill myself." Sasori dodged in embarrassment with the help of the silk thread, while Hidan licked the blood of Iwata on the sickle, and with a bright smile on Iwata's extremely puzzled expression, he pierced a short dark spear directly from the side. into his neck. Under his feet is a circle painted with blood, with a triangular circular pattern in the middle. After Hidan pierced his neck, he was pierced numerous times and hung up. The experiment is complete. Iwata's pupils shrank and suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. The intense pain came from his neck, as if his neck was pierced by someone. A sense of suffocation came to his mind, his eyes were full of surprise and stared at Hidan, but before he could finish his words, Sasori had already jumped up from the side, 5 color strings shot, and directly strangled his neck. Ha ha ha, so exciting. This kind of yin person feels so cool. Oh, I can't move. The rest of the people are left to you. In this area, except for Iwata, the rest are genin. I believe if you can handle it easily, let me take a break. It turns out that my so-called immortal body will also be dizzy due to excessive blood loss, and I feel really dying. After repeatedly confirming that Iwata was indeed dead, Sasori removed the pierced Hidan from the ground stab and sutured him with a thread. During the treatment of Hidan by Sasori, Hidan's mouth did not stop, it was always there. With a smug smile, this is the second time Hidan officially used his cursing ritual in immortality. Just an hour ago, he used the same method to end the life of another Hall Master. Although this forbidden technique is indeed very strong, it also exposed its weaknesses due to continuous use. Hidan's immortal body will also die if he loses too much blood. It self-mutilated twice in a row, causing a lot of blood loss. Now my head is a little dizzy. After a short break, Sasori and Hidan entered the waterfall again. The rest of these people are all genin. Even if it is a head-on fight, Hidan is not afraid, let alone Sasori's help now, and they plan to play yin of. After getting instructions from Iwata and going to work on their own, Sasori easily smashed everyone one by one. The Cthulhu shrine behind the waterfall, only the last laboratory is left, the two have not entered yet. Sasori wants to save the people or among them, and the leader of the Cthulhu cult is among them. Facing the upcoming battle, Hidan said he needed a break, and Sasori clicked and walked out. What are you going to do? When Hidan saw that Sasori was about to leave, he immediately stopped him. If Sasori took a risk at this time, their previous efforts would be in vain. The leader of the Cthulhu cult is the same as those of the Hall. He is a complete lunatic. And the fighting power is strong. Sasori is definitely not alone, or he can handle it alone. I will accompany you on the adventure. You are to save people. I naturally do it for the spoils. I will search for the spoils. The Cthulhu is more defeated than I thought. There is only such a useful thing. Fortunately, there are a lot of potions. Sasori and Hidan are resting in Iwata's stone room. Sasori is packing up all the weapons, money and most important potions that can be used in Iwata's bedroom. After all, the reason why Sasori ventured to accompany Hidan to Cthulhu is because of these potions. Although Hidan talked a lot of nonsense, Sasori still found useful information from his nonsense. For example, Munda and he regularly take special secret medicines, which means that Munda has made some achievements in medicine and has a certain amount of stock. This is what Sasori wants. Chio has clearly stated that he has to rely on his own hands to fight for what he wants. According to Sasori's experience, there is no way to get rich faster than robbing a house. What Sasori didn't expect was that the Cthulhu cult of forbidden technique, which was able to study such a heaven-defying undead body, was so small and pitiful. There were only 3 Hall Masters and about 30 people, except for 3 Hall Masters. His strength lies between Chunin and Jonin, and all the others are parallel imports. At the beginning, the scale was quite large. There were hundreds of people when I first joined. But after the taboo experiment started, all the more powerful ninjas were regarded as experimental subjects. Many people volunteered, but the experiment has been failing, so Cthulhu the scale has been shrinking, and now there are only some unclear truths, thinking that Cthulhu would still join the layman ninja or the newcomer ninja who seems to be constantly attacking other ninja countries. Hey, wait, you want medicine? I know Mang Da's storage room. There seems to be a lot of good things in it. But wait until I save my brother before going with you. After all, Hidan has been in Cthulhu for several years. After hearing Sasori's disdain for Cthulhu, he immediately explained that Cthulhu had developed very well a few years ago, but in the past 2 years due to the high frequency of human body the test resulted in a rapid drop in personnel, and even the kingdom of Sichuan issued a wanted order for the Cthulhu and the Cthulhu had actually come to an end. After a long time winding, Hidan suddenly came back to his senses. What Sasori wanted, Hidan just knew where. One time Hidan found his secret storage room when he followed Mengda. Hidan sneaked in to see it afterwards. It's a secret laboratory, full of all kinds of medicines and equipment for refining pharmaceuticals. For Hidan, who didn't understand medicine at all, this position was completely worthless, so he didn't take it to heart. After Sasori said so, he remembered that there is such a place. Old rules, I'll go in first to trick the leader out, you make a sneak attack. This time you must be careful. The leader of the Cthulhu cult is very strong and very strange. Having regained his strength, Hidan nodded at Sasori again and prepared to enter the final shrine, where the leader of the Cthulhu cult and the final laboratory were all inside. Sasori nodded. Hidan took a deep breath and walked to the Temple of Offerings, knocking on the door of the Temple of Offerings lightly. Come in. Then a hoarse voice came from the temple. Hidan took a deep breath and slowly pushed the door open and entered the dimly lit shrine. Through Hidan's unclosed door, a bloody smell and the smell of medicine spilled out. Sasori saw the evil god for the first time. A pair of scarlet eyes stared straight in the direction of the door, and these eyes almost made Sasori exclaim. This is no different from a living person. Cthulhu's red eyes protruded, as if popping out of his eye sockets, a fierce grimace, scars all over his face, a pair of bewitching ears, and there seemed to be a face behind him, because the Cthulhu had 4 arms and 2 only facing outwards, 2 facing inward, extremely weird. Hidan didn't dare to continue to approach, but stood at the door respectfully and sat cross-legged in front of the evil god, and said with his back to his leader, the Howlmaster Mengda. Hidan, you have been a teacher for 3 years. Have you ever believed in an evil god? Or do you believe in the existence of an evil god? But not yet Hidan finished speaking. The leader actually interrupted what he was about to say first, and asked 2 inexplicable questions one after another. Hidan was stunned as soon as he interrupted his prepared speech skills by the leader. He didn't expect that the leader would be asymptomatic. Subconsciously looking at the Cthulhu's idol, Hidan swallowed unconsciously. Today's idol looks extraordinarily lifelike, and those scarlet eyes seem to be staring at him. Hidan has never believed in the existence of Cthulhu since the beginning of his joining Cthulhu until now. He only joined Cthulhu because of Cthulhu's doctrine and constantly killing ninjas around him. If he believes in anything, he only believes in friends alone. I know you don't believe it. You joined Cthulhu just to avenge your loved ones and to prove that you are a ninja. Just as Hidan was thinking about how to answer the leader interrupted him again, telling his true inner thoughts. Asa is inside. He is different from you. He has always believed in the evil god from the bottom of his heart and believes in the existence of the evil god, so he will become a new evil god, and you can only become an unconscious carrier. Hidan was full of shock. He immediately pulled out the scythe behind and prepared to shoot, but what he didn't expect was that the leader stretched out his finger very calmly and pointed at the back of the idol. Hidan's friend was in the laboratory behind the idol. Asa. Not yet Hidan has acted. A figure suddenly walked out from behind the idol, Hidan suddenly exclaimed. The scarlet pupils of Asa that are almost exactly the same as those of Cthulhu immediately made people feel extremely heart palpitations, and the eyes of this young man named Asa were full of madness and destruction. You inherited the immortal body of the evil god, and he inherited the evil soul of the evil god. Now is the time to bring the evil god back to life. The leader looked at Asa. His tone suddenly became a bit agitated. The Cthulhu has been doing taboo human experiments for so many years. Just to resurrect the evil god. The 3 Hall Masters, Mengda and Iwata, have been conducting experiments on the immortal body of the evil god, and the leader is personally responsible for the revival of the evil spirit and the summoning ceremony. As soon as Hidan came in, the leader knew that he was already immortal, because the evil spirits of the evil god were rioting. This change will only occur when the Cthulhu encounters a true immortal body. The Cthulhu resurrection requires sacrifices, but unfortunately you killed all the sacrifices I prepared. In that case, use you as a substitute. The leader is still sitting on the ground, his hands are quickly knotted, his palms are slapped, Sasori's pupils who have been hiding outside the door shrank, and a donkey rolled in subconsciously. Behind him, a row of ground thorns have come out of the ground. Almost stabbed him. The leader glanced at Sasori and didn't mean to put it in his eyes. After being said by the leader, Sasori and Hidan realized that the original followers of the Cthulhu cult were all sacrifices used by the leader to worship the evil god. I am afraid that the leader of Sasori and Hidan has already known about the things that Sasori and Hidan did outside. Your Highness the heretic god, please let these foolish mortals see the power of God. The leader changed from a cross-sitting posture to a kneeling posture, with both hands looking at Asa feverishly. Asa roared immediately, and the evil god's sect robe burst open. Expose the body under the teaching robe. Scarlet eyes stared at Hidan fiercely, and dark red saliva dripped on the ground along the corners of his mouth. Asa, help me, kill the leader, we are gone. Hidan's body trembled slightly. With a pleading tone, he wanted to approach Asa. Don't waste your energy, your friend has been controlled, and depending on his physical condition, I'm afraid. Sasori grabbed Hidan and shook his head at him. Asa's body had clearly collapsed, with a large area of hardening and ulceration on his body, and he could even see the beating heart directly through the ulcerated ribs. It is already a miracle to be able to stand. I am afraid that the current Asa has lost his humanity. Become a dangerous beast. Hidan actually understood Asa's situation, but he didn't want to face it. It's not control. It's fusion with the soul of the Cthulhu. He is now the Cthulhu. It's just that the flesh of a mortal cannot carry the soul of the god. As long as there is an immortal body, the Cthulhu can be perfectly resurrected. This world as all will be shrouded again under the rule of the evil god. Before Sasori's words were finished, he was already roughly interrupted by the leader. Following his roar, Asa rushed towards Hidan with a roar. From the beginning to the end, he had never seen Sasori and kept his gaze on Hidan. I am afraid it was really as the leader said, Asa. The inexplicable evil spirit in the body has spotted Hidan's immortal body. Faced with Asa who was leaping towards him, Hidan did not dodge and was about to be caught by Asa's claws. Hidan completely violated the rules of physics and flew out, avoiding Asa's fatal blow. If you want to die, don't catch up with me. Leave Asa alone. Obviously, it is the leader who controls Asa. Kill him. Sasori rushed past Hidan, rushing straight towards the Cthulhu leader who was still kneeling on the ground. Chapter 11. Sasori rushed towards the leader without hesitation, and drew a pitch-black short sword from his waist. It had a long arm. It was taken from him after he killed Iwata. The saber on the host of the Cthulhu cult is not bad. This short sword is extremely sharp and strong, and Sasori is also quite easy to use. After arriving in this world, the mainstream kunai and shurikens seem unfamiliar to Sasori, but they are handy to use the sword. According to Hidan's description and the identity of the leader, Sasori did not dare to be careless. With a finger hook, the parasite string has already connected to the leader. Just in case, Sasori's fingers were turned again to help Hidan stitch the wound. The thread also sewed up the kneeling legs of the leader of the world. After making 2 consecutive shots, Sasori still feels uneasy. With 5 fingers, dozens of invisible threads are densely packed around the leader. This is the prototype of Spider's web wall, but now it does not have any defensive capabilities, but Sasori uses it to capture the surrounding movement. All of Sasori can survive in the forest on the border for so long. These transparent threads, which Sasori calls spider threads, play a key role. What Sasori didn't expect was that he made a series of preparations to prevent the leader from escaping or evading his attack, but unexpectedly, his dagger easily pierced into the body of the leader. Pierced his heart. I have long been a dead person. In order to awaken the sleeping soul of the Cthulhu, I have given all of me. The reason why I am still here is just because I want to see the Cthulhu's resurrection with my own eyes. Just when Sasori was full of surprise, the leader gave a weird smile. Sasori noticed that the body of the leader was slowly petrifying from his hands and feet. His heart had already stopped beating, and his vitality was completely cut off. The reason why he was able to live till now was probably because of the use of some kind of secret medicine. Madman, mortals cannot understand my belief in evil gods. Sasori cursed in a low voice. He already understood that the leader is a crazy religious believer. I am afraid that he paid the price of his life in order to awaken Asa's body. It is not enough to be afraid. Then the problem now is that he is possessed by weird things. That's it. As Sasori turned around, the leader suddenly asked, "My child, do you not believe in the existence of God?" Sasori sneered. He has always been an atheist. Even after experiencing such a weird thing, he still doesn't believe in God. Without wasting time with the leader, Parasite String shot directly at Asa. After seeing Asa, the idiot Hidan felt like he lost his soul. Seeing that Sasori's Parasite String was about to hit Asa, Asa suddenly disappeared from the place. Avoided Parasite String. Asa just glared at Sasori, and even if he changed a direction, he continued to rush towards Hidan. As soon as Sasori gritted his teeth, Parasite String controlled Hidan and dragged him to dodge quickly. At the same time he roared at Hidan, "Do you want to die? Don't shoot yet. Don't kill him. We all have to die. But, this is my brother." There were tears in Hidan's eyes. Hidan didn't hesitate to deal with enemies and former followers, but when faced with Asa, he couldn't lift a weapon. "You are a brother when he is. Does he think you are a brother?" Hidan's words made Sasori's anger go up. Asa has obviously become a monster, and Hidan is still being stupid. He must be controlled by someone. "Sasori, can you control him? I can definitely wake him up." Hidan was still obsessed with it, shook his head constantly at Sasori, and then shed tears at Sasori pleadingly. "I can't help him. Are you blind? He is a monster that kills you now. You want to die. Then you go and die." Hidan's tears did not make Sasori feel soft, but instead made Sasori run away completely. In a rage, Sasori directly removed the Parasite String from Hidan, yelled, and immediately prepared other moves. Hidan wanted to die. He could in no mood. "Asa, you are my friend and I will not do it with you. In my opinion, many things you have done before are not monsters, but heroes. You are my only family. No matter what the reason, you become like this, you are still my brother, let me help you." What Sasori didn't expect was that after Hidan's Parasite String was lifted, he actually stood in place, opened his arms, and faced Asa, who pounced on him like a beast. Without Sasori's help, Hidan was immediately thrown down by Asa. Asa showed his beastly sharp teeth and bit Hidan's neck with one bite. Like a vampire, drawing Hidan's blood continuously. Want to come? The blood in Hidan's body is the real secret of the immortal body. Asa began to absorb Hidan's blood, and the leader, who had reached the neck of Petrochemical, made a crazy laugh. "Ha ha ha. Cthulhu is about to resurrect." Stitches. And when Asa moved his mouth, Sasori also shot. Countless threads of silk stitched Asa and Hidan together. "Sasori, what are you doing?" Sasori used silk thread to stitch Hidan and Asa together, so even if Asa wanted to escape, it would be impossible. But at this moment, Asa didn't mean to escape at all. He still bit Hidan's neck to suck blood. Suddenly, Hidan and Asa's bodies shook, and Sasori jumped directly onto the two of them, and stretched out his fingers with a cold expression to aim at Asa's slowly beating heart. "You and him are brothers, so you can't do it, it doesn't matter. I am not a brother to him. I will do it." Bullet String. Hidan struggled violently. Although he knew exactly what Sasori wanted to do, he couldn't help but roared. Sasori sneered and immediately activated his abilities. The bullet string shot directly through Asa's heart and Hidan's body. What Sasori didn't expect was that Asa, who was shot through the heart, didn't react at all, and was still absorbing Hidan's blood. Only a puddle of black blood flowed out of the heart, and obviously the blood absorbed by him did not enter the heart. "It won't die if you shoot through the heart, right? 5 color strings." Sasori sneered again, and immediately pinched the back of Asa's neck with his right hand, squeezing hard. Unleashed the strongest blow so far. Suddenly Asa's neck was cut off. But there is still no blood flowing out. "Asa, hurry up, it's too late." Hidan looked at Asa's eyes nervously at this time and called out. His face had turned pale due to excessive blood loss, but he was still concerned about Asa's safety. It turned out to be these eyes. Bullet String fired twice in a row. Regardless of being called by Hidan, Asa's blood-sucking movement froze, and the red light in his eyes flickered. Only then did Sasori realize that Asa's scarlet eyes had become more and more weird, and his eyes were like rotating uzumaki, flowing with substantial liquid. Sasori suddenly realized that the soul of the so-called evil god was in these eyes. Suddenly stretched out his hands, aimed at Asa's eyes, and activated the bullet string again. Puff, puff. 2 bursts of water balls sounded in the dark temple of offerings. Hidan's blood was drawn splattered, and Hidan's entire face was all over. "Asa." Hidan let out a miserable cry, but before he roared, a panicked voice suddenly came out of Ace's mouth. Xiao Fei, go. Cthulhu will occupy your body. Don't drink blood. Asa is you. Ace's opening made Hidan cheered with joy, but Ace's warning hadn't been issued yet. Those splashes of blood turned out to be alive, glowing with a weird red light, and went straight into Hidan. In the mouth. It's too late for Sasori to stop. The next moment Hidan's eyes suddenly lit up with the same red light as Ace's before. His face also became savage. Unexpectedly, Asa has such a strong consciousness. After being fused by the Cthulhu, he can still maintain such a self-consciousness. It is a pity that the soul of the Cthulhu has officially entered Hidan's body. The great Cthulhu descended here, full of sin and hypocritical world. The petrification has spread to the leader's chin, but the leader's face is full of excitement, staring at Hidan with excitement. Monochrome line. Sasori snorted coldly, and the monochrome lines shot one after another, cutting off Hidan's hands and feet. Hidan's immortal body is not a true immortal body. If the blood is exhausted, it will die. If the body is divided into 5 horses and buried in the ground, it can be sealed. That was what Shikamaru did at the beginning. Want to shine Hidan's blood in a short time. Sasori can't do it, but he can do it by dividing him into 5 horses. It is wise to think of destroying the hands and feet of the Cthulhu at the first time, but unfortunately, you underestimated the Cthulhu's ability. A fully body Cthulhu can infinitely regenerate limbs, not a semi-finished immortal body like Hidan. He quickly cut off Hidan's limbs and kicked it far, and nailed it to the ground with sutures, but the leader once again sneered unhurriedly. Hidan's immortal body is not the true immortal body, but can only be regarded as the prototype of the immortal body of the evil god. Sorry. 5 colors. Sasori sighed and opened his right hand again. The 5 silk threads have been placed on Hidan's head. As long as Sasori exerts force, he can cut off a few pieces of his head, including his weird eyes. Wait. Give Xiao Fei some time. He can win. Trust me. Just when Sasori was about to do it, Ace's voice appeared again, stopping Sasori. How is it possible? Haven't you been swallowed by the evil god? Before Sasori had time to speak, the leader over there, who was about to be completely petrified, already exclaimed. Cthulhu is just a collection of darkness in people's hearts. I was almost swallowed. It was my brother Xiao Fei who awakened me, and now I want to awaken him who is being swallowed by darkness. Sasori and the leader were both stunned by Ace's words. Sasori had long guessed that Cthulhu must not exist. I didn't expect it to be such a weird existence, but it was better to accept than some Cthulhu. During the war, so much resentment produces some weird things, and it is normal. Sasori hesitated whether or not to take action. If Hidan is killed, Sasori will undoubtedly lose a powerful subordinate in the future. In the near future, Monda's secret pharmacy laboratory will not be found. If you don't kill him, I'm afraid Sasori will lose the only chance to kill him. Trust me, you can't kill him like this. Only Xiao Fei can raise the thought of resistance, and I can inhale the evil spirits in his body into my own body. Only the evil spirits enter my head, without the support of the evil god's blood. Soon it will die with my consciousness, waiting for the next gathering. But when Sasori hesitated, Asa spoke again and proposed a way to truly destroy the evil god. You start. After a short silence, Sasori whispered to Asa, but at the same time, his other hand also extended 5 color strings, wrapping Ace's head in. As long as there was something wrong, he would connect. Ace's head was cut off. Xiao Fei, I can win. You can too. Don't be afraid. You can. I'm always by your side. Your friends are also by your side. Do you remember our agreement together? We want to be soup together, the boss of Hidden Village. Then launch an attack on Konoha. In fact, Asa didn't care whether Sasori gave him a chance. He started talking in his ears a long time ago. After all, his head is on Hidan's neck, and he is still biting on Hidan's neck. Suspicious thoughts were very effective, and the red light in Hidan's eyes began to vibrate. The reason why Sasori didn't let Sasori kill him was that wisps of dark red light were sucked into Ace's mouth, and Ace's hollow eye sockets were again filled with red light, but there was a little escape soon, indeed. It is slowly dying out, as Asa said. Asa continued his thoughts on the broken thoughts for a long time, telling all the experiences he and Hidan had experienced since they met each other. Sasori can also understand Hidan's character from the side. He is afraid of loneliness, and his heart is very fragile. He needs to rely on it. A person who speaks to prove his sense of existence, but once he believes in a person, Hidan will always believe it, as if he believes in Asa. It is precisely because of this that Asa can wake up from the consciousness of the evil god. When the red light in Hidan's eyes disappeared completely, he was already in tears, and he could hear all the conversations between Sasori and Asa. I don't have time, Xiao Fei will leave it to you, thank you for trusting me and trusting him. The red light in Asa's eyes dissipated faster and faster. Although he didn't name who it was, Sasori knew it was for him. Xiao Fei, I am leaving. Although I am very worried about you, fortunately you are no longer alone. Asa's voice became lighter and lighter, and finally disappeared completely in Hidan's ears, and the red light in his eyes disappeared completely. You have a good brother. Sasori has never been able to comfort people. He took Hidan's beheaded hands and feet back from the surroundings, silently stitched him up, and helped Asa recover the whole body. Sasori silently nodded at Asa. This is worth it, dear enemy. Yes, he has always been a good person. I have never believed in the existence of the evil god, but now I believe it, the respected evil god Asa. From today onwards, I will be your most devout believer. Hidan wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes, struggling from the ground, and painted the Cthulhu cult exclusive mark on the ground with blood that hadn't dried up. He immediately lay in the center of the mark and stabbed the black short spear that once belonged to Asa. Into his heart, he began to pray sincerely, and Asa finally merged with evil spirits. In a sense, he was indeed the evil god of the cult. Looking at the leader of the Cthulhu cult, he had turned into a stone statue with a distorted face. When he wanted to come, he never dreamed that it would be the result. What is this? It looks delicious. It tastes disgusting. In the underground laboratory where Cthulhu Manda was once, Sasori is preparing new potions. Sasori never thought that he would have such a good talent in potions. The book given by Chio and the things left by Munda, he even successfully formulated dozens of poisons and wound medicines. Hidan curiously took the changing color potion that Sasori had just prepared, and poured it directly into his mouth. But the potion that looks delicious on the outside is actually terrible to death. The venom extracted from 6 poisonous substances such as poison rose, blood mushroom, and 9 tails flower is called dream, because it is so beautiful. The average person is already dizzy and limp and waiting to die. Sasori gave Hidan a white look, and took the remaining potion directly from his hand. This is the strongest poison he has formulated. This potion is very toxic and can quickly paralyze the enemy's central nervous system. Slowly die in hallucinations. But don't say, dream, even if the poison is no longer effective for Hidan. Hidan's immortality also includes the characteristic of being non-invasive. He no longer knows how many precious potions Sasori was wasting. It's so boring, you are concocting medicine here every day, don't you feel bored with these metals and woods? Why don't we go kill people? I have studied it. My curse ritual seems to kill more people, the more powerful it is. After the war is over. It's really peaceful. The country of Sichuan is ready to start developing tourism. I don't know which idiot ordered the attention. I'm going to kill him. Sasori is still refining new poisons with relish, and Hidan has started to think about it with an unhappy expression on his face. It's been 2 months since Hidan brought Sasori here. Sasori is like a rat that fell into a rice tank and refused to come out. Day and night, he began to refine various potions, and he was behind. It took half a month to try to refine the simplest puppet, combining the potion and the puppet. The refining of puppets is more difficult than Sasori imagined, so Sasori spent another month trying to refine the puppets, but most of them failed. The puppets require too much detail, and any joints are not flexible enough, which may lead to the entire puppet get stuck in combat. Fortunately, in the books Chio gave to Sasori, there are a lot of precautions and tips for creating details. Although there is no specific puppet refining method, Sasori still made the crow according to the memory in his mind. However, since Sasori's crow has no specific production method, it is certainly not as powerful as the crow in Sasori's memory. I think it's quite interesting, but you are right. It's time to leave. I have a lump in my heart that I can't solve. Now I'm going to try to solve this lump. Sasori nodded. The time spent here is indeed a bit long. Sasori's psychology inexplicably remembered the figure that was full of contempt and disdain for himself, and injected, dream, into a certain mechanism on the crow's head, and Sasori prepared to leave. Leave here. Go to kill. Hidan immediately got excited when he heard it, and asked excitedly. Don't kill, but it will make her more painful than killing her, maybe it will make her very happy, maybe. Sasori shook his head, and then a strange curve appeared in the corner of his mouth. Sometimes, killing a person was a relief to her. Only inflicting multiple physical and mental injuries on her would be the real torture. Very interesting look. Although Hidan didn't know what Sasori was talking about, he also opened his mouth and showed a very interested smile. Before that, let's find someone to try their power and go to the border of the Rain Country. Sasori carried the bandage-wrapped crow on his back, hid various special potions in the secret pocket of his clothes, and opened the door of the secret room hidden in the belly of the mountain. This secret laboratory was not established in the Kingdom of Sichuan, but in the desert borders of the Kingdom of Wind. I am afraid that even the people of Cthulhu did not know that there is such a secret laboratory. Mengda wanted to own himself, occupying Hidan's immortal body, so I prepared this laboratory secretly, but it was a pity that Sasori finally got a foot in it, and Sasori and Hidan eventually picked up everything they did. At the border of the Rain Country, Sasori and Hidan lay on the ground. The patrol ninja of Rain Country appeared on the top of the tree not far away. Sasori closed his eyes and silently felt the spider silk he placed in the surrounding forest, confirming the appearance. There are indeed only 3 Rain Shinobi around. Immediately, Sasori nodded at Hidan, and immediately Hidan threw out the scythe with excitement. Attacked first. Sasori was still lying on the spot, but the crow behind him suddenly unfurled his bandage. As if he had come alive, he jumped out of the dense forest and followed Sasori to the 3 Rain Shinobi. Enemy attack. As soon as Hidan and Crow took action, the 3 of Rain Shinobi village exclaimed immediately. Ha ha ha, I caught you. Hidan can attack from a long distance because of the scythe, so he attacked the strongest ninja first. Flying sickle caused a wound on his arm for the first time. Face the fear of Cthulhu. After catching Fei Lian who was being pulled back, Hidan licked the bloodline on the blade with excitement, cut his palm open, and bleeded the ground to draw a circular pattern of Cthulhu. It turned out to be the neurosis of the Cthulhu of the Kingdom of Sichuan. Humph. Forbearance. Shuriken Shadow Clone. The Rain Shinobi who was attacked by Hidan gave a cold snort, and immediately recognized Hidan's identity. The Cthulhu of Kawa no Kuni is a famous mad dog and neurosis in the surrounding countries. He bites when he sees people. Of course, Cthulhu he has also heard a lot of the strange legends taught. Now that Hidan is not only not attacking, but waiting for him to attack, he immediately becomes vigilant and decides to test it first and try Hidan's reality. As soon as the shuriken turned into 10, all Hidan's dodge space was immediately covered. This Rain Shinobi was ready to respond, but what he didn't expect was that Hidan didn't evade at all. He even opened his hands and withstood more shuriken attacks. It hurts. Ha ha ha. 6 or 7 shurikens hit Hidan. Hidan cried out in pain, but immediately let out a hearty laugh. The ninja from Rain Shinobi village covered his body with an incredible face, and turned his eyes to Hidan. Hit the position of the shuriken. Ha ha ha. Did you find out? That's right. This is the power of Cthulhu. All the damage I have suffered will be imposed on you. And I am immortal. Come and feel the heart slowly pierce the thrill of it. Ha ha ha. In Rain Shinobi's eyes full of consternation and fear, Hidan drew out the black short spear and slowly pierced it into his heart. Be careful, it's a puppet. There are other people around. On the other side, 2 Rain Shinobi threw out the shuriken and kunai at the crows who rushed up in a daze for the first time. The shuriken and kunai were nailed to the crow's body and made a dull sound. Rain Shinobi immediately woke up, and it was not a living person who appeared in front of them, but a puppet. Physical resistance to strikes is average, but the puppet is not a real person. Since it allows flexible joints to increase the ability to resist strikes, it is better to strengthen the operation to avoid unnecessary attacks. Sasori, hiding in the dark, silently observes the crows hit by kunai and the shuriken, and then records it. At the same time, he also controls the crow to attack. The crow controlled by Sasori is not flexible. He would be attacked by 2 ninjas, but Sasori didn't care at all. What he wanted was that the crow was hit by the 2, and then collected improved intelligence from each other. Water style. The water is chaotic. Fire style. Hot. The two Rain Shinobi also seemed to see that the puppet master who manipulated the puppet was very strange, so after seizing the opportunity, the two simultaneously performed the strongest ninjutsu. Suddenly the crow was seriously injured. The flow of water cut the crow's body with wounds everywhere, and the two arms hit by the fire on the right side were directly blown out. In terms of fighting ninjutsu, it is weaker than I thought. It seems that you can't blindly pursue the flexibility of the puppets and choose wooden materials. You must add metal to the center of the wooden limbs to prevent breakage. However, Sasori remained unmoved and continued to record information, and also recorded the improved methods. It's so slow. When are you going to play? I'm going to shoot. Just when Sasori was about to continue the test, Hidan was already full of publicity and clamor. In his opinion, Sasori was able to quickly kill the two Rain Shinobi, but he had to use puppets, which was thankless. Sasori rolled his eyes, but the crow was seriously damaged, and continued experimentation couldn't get more detailed information. So the three-eyed crow opened its two normal eyes suddenly, and two extremely thin silver needles were removed from the crow. He shot out in his eyes. The two Rain Shinobi obviously did not expect that the already dilapidated crows could even attack. One of them was shot by the silver needle without checking for a while. Be careful, toxic. After being shot by the silver needle, the Rain Shinobi immediately felt dizzy and gave a loud warning, but fell to the ground. The effect of the poison is better than expected, but using the puppet line to control the launch of the organ has to be practiced, and the power of the organ has to be strengthened. Sasori is still hiding in the dark, and he muttered silently, manipulating the puppet to use hidden weapons is more difficult than he thought, but the effect of the poison is better than he imagined. It only takes about 5 seconds to use it. This name is Rain Shinobi. It was poisoned. The last Rain Shinobi saw something wrong, and immediately turned around and flew away in the direction of Rain Shinobi village. Your companions are all dead, do you want to live alone? The last Rain Shinobi fled in the direction of Rain Shinobi village for the first time, but found that suddenly, his body was unable to move. The next moment Sasori's cold voice came from a distance, the crow opened its mouth, and one was smeared with poison. The silver needle flew out and hit him in the back. After a while, he followed in the footsteps of another companion. Huh, is your poison so strong? Hidan looked at his face turned dark with differences. He was almost poisonous when hit, and died in less than a minute. He was full of surprises. He tried almost every poison developed by Sasori, but all poison does not have any effect on him at all. He did not expect that the power used to deal with ordinary people would be such a wall. Find a place to take a break, and then make a wave of ambushes. It is expected that in half an hour, Rain Shinobi's second wave of patrols will come. Sasori gave Hidan a blank look, and then dragged the bodies of the two with the puppet line to hide them. As for the Rain Shinobi that Hidan had dealt with, he had already dealt with it. After cleaning the battlefield, Sasori recovered the crows and began to repair and reform the crows. Half an hour later, 3 Rain Shinobi patrols appeared again. Sasori and Hidan made another move. After 4 consecutive waves of ninjas in the Land of Rain, Sasori and Hidan were ready to leave the border quickly, disguised and entered Kawazi, the territory of the country. The two successively defeated 4 waves of the patrols of the Kingdom of Rain. According to the rotation cycle, if the Kingdom of Rain cannot be found, the country can be destroyed. Next, Sasori's crow has collected enough information on improvements. The next step should be a complete makeover, replacement of production materials and addition of more organs. Of course, the matching capture puppet, Black Ant, Sasori is also preparing to make it together. Up. It's okay to rely on the attacking crow alone to meet people of average strength, but when you encounter stronger people, or several enemies, it seems a little stretched, and when you find suitable solid materials, the defensive type, Sanjiao fish, Sasori wants to make it too. These are the 3 masterpieces of Sasori's fortune. Just less than half an hour after Sasori and Hidan left, dozens of Rain Shinobi village ninjas appeared at several points where the two ambush Rain Shinobi along the way. Suddenly, the leader of Rain Shinobi village, Hanzo of the Salamander. As Hanzo waved his hand, the accompanying Jonin scattered around, and Hanzo also walked around the place where the battle had started. The number of enemies is 2, and one of them is a cultist. The efficiency of Jonin of Rain Shinobi was different. The information was fed back after a while. Hidan was so obvious that he didn't want to eliminate the blood seal of Cthulhu. This group of lunatics again. A Chunin who came to study with him immediately scolded. He is the newcomer Hanzo has recently raised, Mo Yuzin, who has extraordinary combat power, but he is extremely impulsive. One more person is a puppet master. Everyone ignored Mo Yuzin, but lifted the first extremely thin silver needle and some pieces of crows in front of Hanzo, exploding the identities of the two. Master Puppet. The Kingdom of Wind and the Kingdom of Sichuan have joined forces. When Mo Yuzin heard that he was Sand Shinobi's unique puppet master, he jumped up, and suddenly thought of the possibility behind it. When Mo Yuzin said that, the surrounding Rain Shinobi was also shocked. The coordinated battle between the Cthulhu and the puppet master may indeed be a signal for the country of the river and the Kingdom of Wind to join forces. The Cthulhu is also a crossroad mouse in the country of Sichuan. The soft guys of the country of Sichuan have no guts to look for the country of Wind with Konoha's support. Hanzo remained unmoved, squatted down and turned over a Rain Shinobi who was cursed to death by Hidan, silently closing his eyes wide with horror. The Cthulhu wants to overthrow the current regime in the Kingdom of Sichuan. Reminded by Hanzo, Mo Yuzin exclaimed again. As a ninja, the first thing you need to learn is calm down. According to the secret report, the Cthulhu cult was destroyed 2 months ago, and the bodies of the 3 Hall Masters and the Hierarch on the Wanted Order have all been discovered. Hanzo sighed, glanced at Mo Yuzin with some dissatisfaction, and told everyone a piece of news that not too many people knew. This news made him puzzled for a long time. Originally, he thought it was the country of the river or the country of the river. The Konoha behind it is dry, but it is impossible to think about it. If it is the country of Kawano or Konoha, the country of Kawa will immediately announce to the world, announcing that they have annihilated the Cthulhu to increase their influence in the country. But Kawa no Kuni has no voice yet. Mo Yuzin raised his brows and seemed to think of a certain possibility again, and immediately prepared to exclaim, but was interrupted by Hanzo first. The 2 people who shot are very young. Although they are strong, they are inexperienced, and their techniques are not proficient. Although this puppet master carefully handled the traces he left behind, he still left a lot of clues. The Cthulhu cult is very arrogant, for fear that others will not know the same, but his murderous method is a bit strange, and he can't see the specific strength. On the tree trunk in front of him, another silver needle shot out of the crow's eye was drawn, and Hanzo made an accurate judgment. Now that Hanzo spoke and made a judgment, everyone knew that it would be Hanzo's decision-making time next, and everyone wisely closed their mouths. General Hanzo took a silver needle of poison to his arm and lightly stabbed his arm. The wound quickly turned black, but it melted away after a while. Let's go. When Wu Qing on the wound melted away, Hanzo turned around and walked towards Rain Shinobi village. Hanzo's answer caused everyone to be stunned. A Jonin asked hesitantly, "My lord, then these 2 people?" "It's just 2 young people who want to find someone to test their abilities. It's sad that the frontier of the Rain country has become a battlefield for young people to test their abilities. Let us end this civil strife, and then the Rain country will have only one will. That is my will." Hanzo turned his head and showed an extremely sharp look. He had already guessed the reason for Sasori and Hidan's action, but it was precisely because of guessing the reason that he made a certain determination. He wants to end this civil strife. From then on, Rain Shinobi Village will be his Rain Shinobi Village alone. There is no time and need to waste time with 2 young people. Yes, Hanzo's words made everyone excited, and immediately followed him respectfully back to the Rain Shinobi Village of the civil strife. At the side of the gorge where Chiyo gave the trial in the country of Wind, Sasori slowly dragged the largest piece of rock towards the gorge, violently pulled the rock into the gorge. Wow, unexpectedly, Chakra Thread can pull such a huge rock. Hidan sighed with surprise on one side. If this rock was let him push, he would still be able to push into the canyon, but Sasori did it with the invisible chakra silk thread, which is amazing. Sasori ignored Hidan, but turned his gaze to Chiyo not far away. He appeared here today to tell Chiyo that he has completed the first assessment he assigned to him. Congratulations for successfully completing the assessment of the toughness of the chakra puppet line. Now I teach you the second most important point for the puppet master, manipulation. Chio's expression is natural and it seems indifferent, but Sasori always feels that she is a little excited. Chio also agreed to ignore Hidan. She handed over the 3 most important manuscripts to Sasori. Naturally, it is impossible not to send someone to stare at it, so the existence of Hidan is very clear, and there is no intention to stop Sasori. Since you have started to refine puppets, you should be very clear that manipulating puppets is much harder than you think. The most important thing for puppet masters is these hands. Give me your special use of medical ninjutsu. Quote. Chio's words immediately resonated with Sasori. When manipulating crows, Sasori often feels a little weak, because crows have too many joints, which are much harder than manipulating people, even with the assistance of string fruit. It is also difficult to achieve the desired effect. After taking a look at the puppet behind Sasori, Chio asked Sasori for the handwritten note that he had given him. Sasori gave it to Chio without hesitation. Chio smiled, then flipped it twice and opened one of them. Page arrived in front of Sasori. This is a special body technique, Transfiguration 1000 Fingers, secreted by the puppet master. It can increase the flexibility of the fingers. Our puppet masters use the puppets to fend off the enemy. It is all in one word. Variations in the control method will allow the enemy. There is no way to prevent it, so the flexibility of the fingers is very important. When Sasori saw a dozen pages of fingering in front of him, he was stunned. When he got this manuscript, he had already read it all over, and there was absolutely never such a dozen pages of fingering exercises in it. Although puzzled, Sasori was relieved soon. The Puppet Clan is a first-class player in the Puppet Master, and the mechanism is the same. Obviously, there are unknown mechanisms in this thin handbook. The more I look at Phantom Thousand Fingers, Sasori feels shocked. Every page has a set of exercise methods for a certain finger. The last few pages are exercise methods for wrists, elbows, and arms, even the martial arts secrets that Sasori has never seen before. I'm afraid it's nothing more than that. This puppet is good. When you can control your puppet to dance the same dance as you, and make it impossible to tell who is the puppet, you are qualified. Then I will teach you the last item, Nianhua Wushwang. Chio gave a final confession, and then left the scene first. When he appeared again, there was already a giant rock in the wind and sand in the distance, and Ebizo and Hakura were all here watching Sasori's performance. The two of them just wanted to say something, only to find that Chio's face was full of excitement. Such an expression appeared in the calm Chio. What happened? You forcibly pulled me here just to show me this. Chio showed up here because he received information from Sasori that he needed to be assessed. Ebizo was dragged by Chio. To put it bluntly, Chio was going to show off his grandson to his younger brother. You know, the ancestor of the Puppet Clan, Menziman, who set the 3 assessments of the puppet line. Chio's expression was not as calm as he was in front of Sasori, but he said to Ebizo with a little excitement. After nodding, Chio continued to ask again, do you know how long it took me to complete the assessment of resilience? I remember when you said that, it seemed that it took you 2 years to complete the assessment, Sasori. Ebizo raised his eyebrows, and he suddenly realized that he looked at Sasori again and became a little surprised. Among the 3 of them, Yi Kang looked confused. Compared to Chio, Yi Kang was already a younger generation. He didn't know much about the things of the previous generation. After Ebizo explained this, Yi Kang's face also changed. It has to be different. Unexpectedly, it took Sasori to complete the assessment so much longer than Chio. Chio is hailed as the most talented puppet master in the history of the Puppet Clan except Menziman. It really took me 2 years. To be precise, it took 2 years and 3 months to complete the assessment, and this was the highest record other than the founder of Menziman. I didn't expect Sasori to take only 3 months. Time. Maybe he really is the hope of revitalizing the Puppet Clan. Qiandai sighed, and still can't forget her joy after completing the assessment. Apart from the ancestor of the Puppet Clan, she is the only one who set a new record. Her name was even engraved on the Puppet Clan steel. It's just that Chio's joy at this moment is stronger than ever. Because today, when the Puppet Clan is heading for loneliness, new hope has once again appeared in front of Qiandai. Yi Kang, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly asked, how long did it take for Menziman himself to complete the toughness assessment? Ebizo appeared here because she was forced to show up. Yekora appeared here because she was the one responsible for secretly protecting Sasori. Although she personally refused to marry Sasori, Chiyo was still a high-ranking member of the Kingdom of Wind. The identity assigned Yi Kang the task of secretly protecting Sasori. And Yi Kang's arrogance made her not allow herself to abandon the high-level orders of the Kingdom of Wind. And watching Sasori's rapid growth step by step gave Yi Kang a very complicated emotion in his heart. Now that Sasori has broken the record set by Chiyo, what is the record of founder Menziman? Estimated to be only 1 or 2 months. It took 13 months for Patriarch Menziman to pass the assessment. Sasori only took 3 months. It was 10 months short. Chiyo took a deep breath, trying to calm his tone as much as possible, but when he said the difference between the two, he couldn't help but increase his tone. Yi Kang and Ebizo were both stunned. Sasori's record of breaking the 1,000 generations has surprised them. They did not think that he even broke the record of founder Menziman. And it's been nearly a year away. The assessment of resilience is an entry assessment, in order to lay a solid foundation for the puppet master. This assessment actually passed when he was able to move the third 2/3 of the stone, but I did not tell him. It takes 1 to 3 years for a normal person. When it can drag the last rock to move, it means that Sasori has the first condition to control the near pines. 10 people. Just when Yi Kang and Ebizo were shocked, Chiyo said in a solemn voice. What do you mean? Ebizo's pupils shrank. Some stared at Chiyo in disbelief. Yi Kang was also at a loss, wondering what dumb riddle the two were playing. That's right, after all these 3 assessments are completed, you will have the qualifications to inherit the 10 people from nearly Song Dynasty. Chiyo nodded, confirming Ebizo's guess. Chiyo has deliberately handed over to Sasori of the Kinmatsu Jujin of Menziman. Others may not understand, but Ebizo knows exactly what the 10 songs mean to the entire puppet clan. The puppet clan is not like other blood succession boundary clan, which can pass on the excellent bloodline from generation to generation, but they have passed on a set of artifacts from generation to generation. The true artifact of the puppet clan. 10 puppets made by Menziman. Near Song. 10 people. There are 10 people in Song Dynasty, and every puppet is the pinnacle of the puppet clan. No one can surpass it so far. This is a puppet that can really use ninjutsu. So far, except for the 10 people in this world, there has not been a puppet capable of using ninjutsu. HMPH, I've heard of Transfiguration 1,000 Fingers. This is a special secret body technique of the puppet clan. I am afraid that even the grandmother of the 1,000 generations hasn't practiced it. The astonishment on Yi Kang's face flashed away. Although he felt shocked in his heart, his mouth was not convinced, and he gave a cold snort. Hey, that's right, the Transfiguration of 1,000 Fingers was created by the master. The highest realm can be performed by 1,000 machines, and the master has only reached the realm of dancing with 100 machines. So far, I have only reached the realm of 10 machines, but this one in the assessment, you only need to achieve the 5-finger illusion to pass the level. I spent 1 year and 7 months to complete the 5-finger illusion. Let me see if Sasori can perform miracles again. When it comes to turning thousands of fingers, Chi and I sighed. There are 3 treasures of the puppet clan. One is near Song 10 people, the other is magic Chenji, and the remaining one is more difficult to master. Nianhua Wushwang. Not to mention Nianhua Wushwang Xian, the Transfiguration Chenji was created by Menziman, and the puppet master specializes in physical exercises for fingers and arms. According to the legend, Menziman's hands can turn out hundreds of fingers to control the puppet in an instant. At that time, the 10 people of Jinsong were the time to bloom their full power. It's a pity that even Menziman did not reach the limit for this special physical skill. Not to mention the limit. After him, no one in the entire puppet clan can complete the realm of dancing with all kinds of opportunities. Even Chiyo, hailed as a puppet genius, only reached the 10-machine battle, and met the minimum requirements for manipulating 10 people. However, when she turned her gaze to Sasori, who was reading the illusion of 1,000 fingers in the distance, Chiyo's gaze was suddenly full of expectations. As soon as Chiyo expressed his expectations, Yi Kang snorted coldly, and said extremely firmly, "Humph. Impossible. How about I make a bet with you?" Instead of being angry, Chiyo laughed. Yi Kang raised his brows, and was extremely disgusted with betting. Back then, she was allowed to be Sasori's fiancé. Legend has it that her dead ghost father lost the bet to Chiyo. If Sasori can complete the 5-finger illusion in a year and a half, you will continue to be his fiancé. If he fails, it proves that he does not have the potential to become your fiancé. Then the marriage contract is terminated. I will help you fix the two families. Chiyo seemed to have noticed Yi Kang's silence, so before she could speak, he threw the bait first. Sure enough, as soon as Qiandai's bet was released, Yi Kang was immediately moved. Chiyo obviously saw Yi Kang's heartbeat, so he continued, "This bet is actually very cost-effective for you. If you win, then the marriage contract is terminated and you are free. If you lose, you will be as good as your previous situation." In fact, nothing has changed. As Chiyo said, Yi Kang refused the marriage in his own name at the time, and it was not recognized by the two families. In terms of etiquette and rules, Yi Kang was still Sasori's fiancé. If Yakura really wants to get rid of Sasori's fiancé completely, then this time is a golden opportunity. Chiyo personally proposed to cancel the marriage contract. The families on both sides will not continue to pursue it. Yi Kang's heart was shaken violently. Young man, don't be competitive, although I am not optimistic about Sasori, but what if he really completes the metamorphosis of 1,000 fingers in a year and a half? This bet cannot be accepted. And at this moment, Ebizo made the last cut, seeming to be admonishing Yi Kang, but in fact it was a radical move. I bet. I don't believe that he is really a genius of the puppet clan. Yakura became Sand Shinobi's Jonin at a young age. There is arrogance. When Ebizo said that, Ebizo immediately felt that she looked down on her. He gave a cold snort for the first time, and immediately took the bet. Hey, young people, it's just impulsive. Ebizo sighed, shook his head slightly, and said no more, but the arc of the corner of his mouth appeared. After Yi Kang signed a contract with Chiyo, Chiyo assigned the new task to Yi Kang, and Yi Kang left immediately. That Cao Nian named Hidan seems to be an immortal master. Do you want to? Only Ebizo and Chiyo are left on the rock. Ebizo's gaze shifted from Sasori's body to Hidan's body. He has already noticed Hidan's secret. If this kind of thing is not in the hands of the master himself, he might have trouble sleeping and eating. Not for the time being. The news of the Cthulhu's extinction was from us. All the first-hand information has been obtained. We are already trying to experiment. However, according to the information returned by Yi Kang and the information of the experimental team, it's the only immortal body in this world, and everything else is easy to handle, but the special existence produced by the dark condensation, but also the fusion of autonomous consciousness, willing soul, this is too difficult. The above means, let us stare tight. If it can't be used by us, we can bring it back. However, Chiyo shook his head. As early as when Sasori and Hidan killed the Cthulhu, Sand Shinobi had already received the news, and by the way received the entire Cthulhu research data. After getting the physique of transforming Thousand Fingers, Sasori returned to his and Hidan's laboratory stronghold like a treasure, and began to practice the first page of the right thumb of the Transfiguration Thousand Fingers, but the exercise of the Thousand Fingers was better than Sasori had imagined. It's too difficult. 6th Medician Divine Sword is not so difficult, right? Seeing that his best intact little finger also changed shape, Sasori was already in pain, but he still didn't give up, and he wanted to continue to practice transforming Thousand Fingers, but then he realized that none of the 10 fingers can continue to practice. According to this progress, Sasori won't even want to practice the Phantom Thousand Fingers all his life. In just 1 week, his 10 fingers were either dislocated or broken. Not to mention continuing to exercise, even the operation of the puppet line was no longer possible. Your finger is broken again. What did you practice? 100 ways to disable your finger. Ha ha ha. Hidan, who was polishing the scythe, immediately began to mock Sasori when he saw that Sasori's little finger was also crooked. After using the immortal body, he was considered a self-abuse. Unexpectedly, Sasori also began to embark on the path of self-abuse. Sasori gave Hidan a white glance, and immediately understood that perhaps he was too anxious. He practiced to transform 1,000 fingers, requiring the fingers to become extremely soft, like a line without bones, to be able to swing freely, so he needs to exercise the joints of the fingers slightly. If you are not careful, your finger will become dislocated. Immediately Sasori closed his eyes and held down the deformed little finger, gritted his teeth, fixed it with the ability of string fruit, broke it fiercely, and smashed it back to its original position, but this process was for Sasori. Painful grinning. Due to the pain, Sasori temporarily gave up continuing to practice the exercises of the Transfiguration Thousand Fingers on the joints, but began to practice the ability of String Fruit. Now his fingers are injured and the puppet line cannot be manipulated. If you fight, you can only rely on String Fruit. Ability. What? Just when Sasori closed his eyes and let the thread pass through his fingers, a strange feeling suddenly came from his fingers. Sasori frowned. Suddenly a flash of light flashed in his mind, closed his eyes again, and began to run the ability of String Fruit. When the magical feeling appeared again, Sasori began to stabilize it. The next moment Sasori opened his eyes and exclaimed in incredible exclamation. This is. I saw that Sasori's index finger turned out to be like a thread being blown by the wind, constantly twisting. It's as if there are no bones. This is exactly the first step to complete the one-finger illusion of Thousand Fingers. Boneless. How did you do it? It's amazing. Hidan was also called by Sasori's exclamation. He was also startled when he saw Sasori's fingers, and asked Sasori in surprise. It's just that Sasori is also confused, which is obviously completely unexpected. Immediately Sasori closed his eyes again to feel the twisting fingers. It took a long time for Sasori to understand that his index finger seemed to have become a thread in his hand. In other words, his index finger merged with the thread. His index finger is the thread, and the thread naturally has no bones. But why did it become like this? Devil Fruit's ability awakened. After a while, Sasori suddenly thought of a possibility. Only the awakening of Devil Fruit's ability can cause this effect. Impossible. How could I be awakened even if I didn't even have all the moves of String Fruit's ability, Master? And even if I awakened, it should have a permanent impact on the outside world, just like Aokiji and Akainu after they took full action, turning an island into Iceland and Fire Island. The ability of String Fruit after awakening should be to allow the line to appear from other locations. But after another thought, Sasori denied this possibility. According to Doflamingo's explanation, the awakening of Paramesh's Devil Fruit ability should have a real or permanent impact on the outside world, but it can only be sent from the hand. The line becomes able to be emitted from the surrounding buildings. Wrong. It seems that Doflamingo was seriously injured and he just sutured the wound in his body with thread. In other words, the ability of String Fruit can affect itself. It doesn't matter. Let's finish the fusion of the 10 fingers first. Although Sasori got String Fruit, a series of problems followed. But when I switched to Sasori, I don't think about it anymore. It is true to complete the illusion of Thousand Fingers. Immediately Sasori closed his eyes and started to use the thread to fuse with his fingers. Soon Sasori entered the state here. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised. He could feel that his fingers were changing little by little. Start dancing as if given life. In the dark corner, an invisible figure showed an extremely shocked expression when he saw the change of Sasori's index finger. Then came Sasori's thumb and middle finger. Sasori's fingers seemed to be alive one by one. Asterisk. You can only complete the illusion of 10 fingers and complete the first step, Boneless Realm. If you want to complete the second step, you can only rely on practice. Using String Fruit to complete the illusion of Thousand Fingers is not as smooth as Sasori imagined. The illusion of Thousand Fingers is divided into 3 levels. The first level is boneless. Entering the Boneless Realm, you can enter the illusion of 10 fingers, and then up. The second level, transforming shadows, transforming hundreds of fingers, and going up to the third level, transforming thousands of fingers. It is also the highest state of this special physical art of transferring Thousand Fingers. But after Sasori has completed the 10-finger boneless state and reached the illusion of the 10-finger, he cannot go further. The second shadow can only be achieved through constant hard training. To put it bluntly, it is the high-frequency jitter of the 10 fingers, like having them at the same time. Like 1,000 fingers. Then the next step is to dance with the crow, dance, hee. After completing the requirement of Transfiguration 10 fingers, Sasori began the assessment content of Chiyo asking him to control the crow and dance the same dance as himself. For other things, Sasori really dare not say, but dancing is too simple for Sasori, especially street dance. Sasori dances hip-hop before crossing. It's just that dancing hip-hop by yourself and manipulating crows to hip-hop are completely different concepts. The crow makes various large movements under the control of Sasori, but because the crow has too many joints, many movements are completely different at all, so it needs more puppet lines to control it, and fortunately, Sasori after completing the illusion of the 10 fingers, or not to control the crow to do so many movements, even smooth movements can be done. Ha ha ha, your puppet is crazy. Even so, after Sasori controlled the crow to dance hip-hop, Hidan began to fall to the ground, his abdominal muscles had been strained because of being so funny. Sasori's face was ugly, and Hidan turned white, and then continued to contact and control the crow to dance, but jumped around. Sasori always felt that something was missing. He glared at Hidan, who was still laughing, and Sasori suddenly woke up. What was missing? He immediately pulled him over. Come and help. A month and a half later, Sasori once again found Chiyo through a special contact method. With a soft smile, Chiyo said to Sasori in an expected tone, "Have you encountered any problems? Is it difficult to practice turning thousands of fingers? Take your time, don't worry, It seems to Chiyo that Sasori came to her this time because she encountered difficulties in the practice of transforming 1,000 fingers. Although the practice of transforming 1,000 fingers is very detailed, there are many things that cannot be understood by just reading a book. Come to her for instructions. Sasori is not too stubborn. I'm here to assess. It's just that before Chiyo's words to comfort Sasori were finished, Sasori told Chiyo about the future. Assessment. Didn't you pass the assessment of resilience? Chiyo was stunned for a moment. Even though he was a little confused, Sasori's first assessment of resilience was completed in a little over a month, so why did it come again? Chiyo had never thought that Sasori was here to evaluate the second manipulation. After all, he had only gotten the Phantom 1,000 Fingers for more than a month. Without the assistance of the Phantom 1,000 Fingers, it would be impossible to manipulate the puppet to make extremely delicate movements. Don't talk about dancing. I'm here to evaluate the second item, manipulating it. Sasori shook his head and answered Chiyo's question silently. The illusion of 1,000 fingers has not reached the realm of 5 fingers. It is almost impossible to manipulate a puppet to perform exactly the same actions as a human, even if you want to. Chiyo smiled bitterly. Manipulating a puppet to dance is not the same as manipulating a puppet to fight. She can complete the same two-person dance. At least she must complete the 5-finger illusion. The difficulty and pain of the 5-finger illusion are only known to her. I finished. Just as Chiyo recalled the pain of turning 5 fingers, Sasori suddenly stretched out his right hand. I saw the 5 fingers of Sasori's right hand twisting strangely like 5 boneless water snakes, and even making various movements between the fingers from time to time, touching the back of the hand, knotting each other, entwining each other and so on. Transfiguration of 5 fingers. Chiyo exclaimed immediately after seeing Sasori's right hand. This is no longer simply beyond Chiyo's expectations, Chiyo is simply shocked. It took just over a month for Sasori to complete the magical 5 fingers. Even Menziman can't do this. Okay, your assessment has been, cough. Then I will repeat it again. As long as you can control your puppet to dance a dance like yours, the second test will pass the control. Just when Chiyo wanted to directly announce that Sasori passed the level, he seemed to see a purple touch at the end of his sight. He took a deep breath and calmed his breath, and then repeated the assessment content she had arranged. Sasori was able to complete the 5-finger illusion in such a short time and found himself to complete the assessment. He didn't believe that Sasori was here to make a joke. Yekora appeared in front of Chiyo at this time, but he was dying to struggle. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if Sasori fails this time, he will definitely be able to complete the assessment within 1 or 2 months at most. Definitely broke everyone's record. Sasori didn't know what Chiyo was thinking about. He walked alone to the open space not far away with the crow on his back. He took a deep breath and nodded at Hidan in the distance. Move, 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 move. A rhythmic percussion came from the drum in front of Hidan. At first when Sasori was controlling the crow to dance, he always felt that something was missing, but then he suddenly remembered that the only thing that was bad was the music. So he made the simplest drum kit and taught Hidan how to play rhythm. Hidan can learn. A rhythmic percussion came from the simple drum in front of Hidan, a gust of wind and sand blew, and Sasori suddenly moved. His right hand was suddenly raised. The black cloak that wrapped the crow behind him flew suddenly. The crow turned steadily in midair and landed beside Sasori, making a crashing sound of machinery. At the moment the black cloak hits the ground, Sasori and the crow start a flamboyant mechanical dance at the same time. The crazy swinging gestures and exaggerated dance steps immediately made Chiyo fall into a sluggishness. Using dancing to judge the second control test is the rule of the puppet family for so many years, but most of them are dances that dance gently and slowly. The smaller the movement, the slower the puppet's control, the more accurate it will be and the faster it will be. The greater the movement, the easier it is to make mistakes in the dance. Especially for this kind of dance that requires exactly the same, it is easy for people to see who is true and who is false. But, at this moment, if only by eyes, Chiyo can't recognize who is the real Sasori and who is the crow. The actions of the two are exactly the same. What shocked Chiyo the most was that both of them had 4 hands. And they are all dancing. That is to say, while controlling the crow, Sasori also installed the other 2 hands on his body, controlling what exaggerated movements they followed together. Others may not know the difficulty, but Chiyo knows very well that Sasori, who is dancing at the moment, is controlling 2 puppets at the same time. Just when Chiyo was shocked, Hidan's contact in the distance suddenly changed. Becomes slower. The syllables are also pulled worse. The sound of metal rubbing also appeared in the rhythm. At the same time, the movements of Sasori and Crow slowed down, and the two began to walk face to face, starting a duo mechanical dance. The 2-person mechanical dance in this show is not the kind of rigid dance together, but a cooperative dance between 2 people. The performance is exactly 2 puppets. There is no way to tell which is a puppet, which is Sasori. When the music stopped, Sasori and the crow stopped their movements, and the black cloak returned to the crow's body under the retraction of the puppet line, and returned to Sasori's back. How many fingers did you reach transfiguration? It took a long time for Chiyo to come back to his senses. The actions Sasori used to manipulate the crow just now are definitely not something that can be done by transmog 5 fingers. Transfiguration of 10 fingers. Sasori gave Chiyo a weird look, and stretched out his hands directly, revealing the boneless realm in front of Chiyo. Am I getting confused recently? Have we not seen each other in a few years? Chiyo looked at Sasori with a monster expression on his face, and then suddenly said that it took him half a year for Chiyo to transform 1 finger, but Sasori only took more than a month to transform 10 fingers. The only explanation is that she has forgotten the time. No, we just met 13 days ago a month. Sasori's face was puzzled. Chiyo's expression was a bit distorted now, but he still answered Chiyo's question truthfully. Yi Kang, come out. After a long time, Chiyo took a deep breath and beckoned to a rock not far away. After a while, a Yi Kang wearing a purple battle suit walked out from behind the rock, but her face was completely dark. Sasori's face became gloomy the moment Yekora appeared, and at the same time he became expectant. The target he wanted to crush was right in front of him. The sense of expectation was natural. Are you convinced now? Not to mention Yi Kang, even Chiyo was completely convinced this time. He completed the test of puppet line toughness in 3 months, and completed the Phantom 10 fingers in 1 month. Even if it is the 3rd item, Nianhua Wushwang Sasori cannot pass, he will definitely become the mainstay of the puppet clan. Even Chiyo was already considering whether to entrust the entire clan of puppets to Sasori. Potential belongs to potential. I can't hit me. I won't recognize him as my husband-in-law. Hakuro was actually convinced in her heart. She saw Sasori's hard work and talent in her eyes, but she made such cruel words at the beginning, and now she can't let go of her face, let alone Chiyo still asks in front of Sasori himself. With such a problem, Yi Kang was even more uncomfortable, and immediately snorted coldly. Girls are extremely arrogant at all times. 10 days later, right here, we are singled out, dare you? Just as Chiyo wanted to say something, Sasori, who had been silent all the time, suddenly said to Yi Kang with a cold face. Sasori's tone and attitude were so determined that even Chiyo was stunned. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.